Good evening, folks. Welcome back to another Wednesday night hobby hangout. Hope everybody is well. Hope you had a good week so far. Again, folks, just let me know if the stream's okay. It's playing up on my laptop again. It did this the other day as well, but on the main computer where it's running, it looks absolutely fine. So I don't know if there's a bit of a video update needed on this one, but let me just get it off the screen because it's flickering away and it's distracting me. How's everybody doing? I hope you're all well. I'll wait until there's a couple of comments there just to check and everything's okay for you lot, because it does look okay to me. So and then I'll go back and we'll say hello. Looks fine, Peter. Hey, thank you very much. As long as it's good, mate. Right, I'll nip back to the start. We'll have a look and see who we've got in the chat. Connor was in nice and early today, about 25 past 11 this morning. Good morning, I'll say, because you were in early, but hello, mate. Mark Wright, good evening to you, mate. Peter Nicholas, hello to you. Lord Maiden, hello, fella, how are you doing? Ortega, hello for the rerun, mate, when you're catching up with us later. We've got Blizzhaz saying, yo ho ho, it's a Hobby Hooligans live for me. Nice to see you, mate. Tiberius says he's got a beer and a day off tomorrow, so you know what that means. I'll drink 2 and fall asleep by 9:30. Wouldn't surprise me, mate. It wouldn't surprise me. Either that or he'll just start causing trouble anyway. Causing trouble, I should say. Peter Kuhlman, hello to you, fella. Says, can't decide between painting these Blitzkrieg Germans or good old classic Green Knight from GW. I don't think I really know what a Green Knight is, mate. Or are you just painting like a Bretonian Knight? Is that what you mean? John Estel, painting up with captain for his hobgoblins while trying out the new synthetic GW brushes. You have to let me know what you think, mate. It wasn't something I've kind of considered picking up. I'm not short on brushes at the minute, so but I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. Mark Corley, good evening to you, mate. He's finishing off his Malifaux challenge tonight. Yeah, not too long. I can't remember what the closing date is now, but yeah, it's not too long to that, is it? Blizzard is plugging away another Malifaux crew as well. Red Rose Wargaming, good evening, Anna. No hobby, she says she doesn't think. She's just having a read through the rules of Conquest First Blood. I've read the rules of Conquest, which is like the last argument of kings or something it's called. But I think First Blood is the skirmish version, isn't it? I've not even seen the rules for that yet. Michael Cowan, good evening to you, sir. Let's have a little look down. Daniel Kennedy said he's been catching up on Monday's stream and it just ended in time to catch up on this one. And he's finishing off his Malifaux box for the challenge. Very nice. He said he's loving seeing all the crews you're knocking out. Blizzard is smashing through the crews. I think I might send some of mine his way, to be fair. Tony Howell, good evening to you, mate. Colin Wakeland, good evening to you. Hello, Ian. Peter said he's hoping to finish his Malifaux tomorrow as well. I've had a few people submit their kind of the finished crews, but I must admit it's not been too many yet. But I think it's getting to that point now where people are starting to finish them and they're starting to come in now towards the end. Marcus is saying shading these night haunts is a pain in the butt. Shading? You not just put a wash on them, mate. Martin as well. Hello, Martin. How you doing, mate? Nice to see you in the stream. Gareth Lewis, good evening to you. Warwick's in as well. Hello, fella. Thank you very much for letting me know it looks good. Ruas as well says good evening. Tasty Brain Drain's in. Tony Howell said he's painting Jane Cobb style character from Wild West Exodus Wayward 8 tonight. It was a toss-up, mate, tonight whether I was going to paint my Wayward 8 crew. I've already painted a couple of the models from it. But I decided, actually, we might as well just kind of show you what we're doing tonight. So, I am going with the Court of the Nazombu, which is part of the Hex faction for Wild West Exodus. And I've had these for a little while. I've had them primed up. I've had a million things to do today, so I thought I'd grab some minis that already were primed and ready to go. So, yeah, so this is the kind of like the leader model. Which, and she's kind of, that's what we're going to kind of focus on tonight. But in the box with her is think of them as kind of like sort of Bayou voodoo type people. We've got this gent here, kind of digging away, looking for corpses, no doubt, with the feathers in his hat and his top hat there as well. Very much like some kind of like sort of we'll say like a voodoo priest, but he's more of a like, you know, like the one they have, like they do like the pallbearers with the hats and stuff. And we've got this young lady here as well. Again, quite sort of Creole, sort of voodoo inspired. We've also got this kind of very if you're into Malifaux, like Zoraida, think Zoraida, you're not far off. She's got like kind of a little I don't know if you can be able to see that there, lights above there. Just in her hand here, she's got like a little voodoo doll there. There's a bit of a skull on a staff there as well. It's going to be fun to paint with a little bird sitting on the top there. There's also this kind of like sort of withered tree with skulls and stuff in. Not the easiest to show off on camera, but yeah, pretty cool too. And then there's this big kind of gribbly construct that you can see. We've got like bits of kind of metal beams kind of strapped to his arms and stuff, and replacing a bit at the bottom of his foot there as well, and all sorts of boils and blisters and stuff coming out. Looking a little bit angry there. So yeah, I don't think we'll concentrate on that one tonight for the stream, but we are going to make a start on, I forget what she's called now, but yeah, she's the leader model, so we'll be starting on that one. Excuse me. We'll very quickly catch up in the chat and see who else we've got. We've got Andy Smith said he's having a shiny week, but hey ho, hope all is well. It's not too bad here, mate, I'll be honest, not too bad. Bobby Clark, good evening to you as well. Said he's far too busy taste testing his girlfriend's chocolate brownies and millionaire shortcut. I can't believe you haven't sent some my way, mate. Hope they're nice. Busey, good evening to you, mate. Peter says the Green Knight was a Bretonian special character. Yeah, way before my time, mate, I think. Lord Maiden says Malifaux ends midnight on the 8th of June. I knew it was in June. I thought I'd give it an extra week, but I couldn't remember the date. So that's before the next... Not next week, is it? I don't even know what date we are today. No. So it probably must be 2 weeks' time, I think. It'll be the Tuesday. It'll be 2 weeks yesterday. Then we'll be showing them all off on the Hobby Hangout on the following Wednesday. Daniel saying the models look great. Yeah, they're nice sculpts, mate. These are all resin models. And yeah, they are nice sculpts actually. Right, let's why wait? Let's just crack on and dive in. So, folks, I'm gonna I think tonight, color-wise, I was in two minds about how to do this, but I've picked out a few colors, kind of create a bit of a palette that I want to do this little kind of crew in, if you like. And I think we're gonna go like purple, pink, and blue. So these are some of the this is like my inspiration, if you like. It's kind of like the pastel shades, if you like, that we're going to focus on. But I am going to start with good old with contrast paint. So we're going to get the base color down with a contrast paint, and then we'll probably kind of highlight up with normal paints from that. But I am going to try and do the darker skin with Wildwood. Somebody recommended using Wildwood, like kind of thin down a little bit. So I think we're going to start with that. And then if we screw it up, we can always pick a different model and clean that one up. So yeah, so I'm going with kind of like a 50-50 mix of the technical contrast medium along with the contrast Wildwood. And we'll dive in there. Oh yeah, Tony Cindy comes with a head option, regular head or with a woolly hat. Yeah, I've got that model as well, mate. I didn't go with the woolly hat option, I must admit. I went with the regular one. So let's get a little bit onto the wet palette here. A bit down. So yeah, I don't know what's playing up with my with the stream at this end. I don't know whether it's YouTube playing funny buggers or whether it's like sort of maybe my laptop needs a driver update or something like that. All the joys of technology, yeah. But yeah, it's streaming fine. I only use the laptop really to read the comments. So my main PC basically runs all of the stream and all the cameras and things. That's more than up to the job. So yeah, it's more just so I can kind of monitor it playing back and make sure it's okay. That's all I really use it for. Green Knight had a woolly hat. Right, we'll crack on now. So I don't think I've actually ever done like a darker coloured skin with contrast paints before. So this is a bit of a learning curve. So if it looks horrendous, I do apologise. But so far so good. And we'll come in. She has got some kind of snakes and stuff like wrapped around her hands, so just need to make sure to remember not paint over the top of those. Kath Smith, good evening. She's been foster mum to a poodle tarantula today, finishing gluing my Malifaux kit together. They look awesome. Which kit was it you were doing again? You did tell me on Monday, but I must admit I'm having a bit of a brain fart at the moment, and I can't remember which one it was you were doing. And how's the tarantula? Hopefully it's on the mend. I'm not even going to ask how you know a tarantula's ill. Is it of its food, I assume? Is that what happens? I'm not really a pet person, so I wouldn't even know how to know when a when a tarantula was a bit ill. People having a bit of a chat about the Green Knight there. Yeah, like I say, way before my time. Warhammer Fantasy was something that pretty much passed me by when I was first starting in gaming. I think I've said this before. It was around the era of 5th edition 40k, so I'm relatively new to gaming, really, to tabletop gaming. But yeah, fantasy was just never really grabbed me. I think I've said before, my experience of it was the guys at the gaming club where I used to play Malifaux, basically looking like they weren't really doing much. They were just kind of staring at rule books for most of the game. It might have been more about them and less about the game, I don't know, but it certainly never interested me based upon that. So, but it didn't. For all, sci-fi's always been my kind of like my main preference. There are a few games that's kind of like sort of perked my interest when it's come to fantasy, and I've definitely grown to love fantasy stuff over time. I think probably Kings of War Vanguard potentially was probably the first one, and then from there things like sort of Kings of War and Warcry. I did try AOS a little bit, but not so much for the kind of the sort of the background or the fantasy aspect. What to do with the fact is that it was the popular game at a local gaming club, and that was why I tried it, really. So, but yeah, sci-fi and I guess now things like Malifaux and Wild West Exodus and Mythos and stuff, those kind of like, I'm not sure you'd call them fantasy, but you certainly wouldn't call them sci-fi either, but those kind of alternative universe type things, they're certainly kind of pick up a little bit of what I'm interested in at the moment. And then obviously there's all manner of other games as well, but yeah. Peter said it was the geishas. That was right, I remember now. The Yuko Core box. Tarantulas go lethargic and floppy when they're poorly. I suppose it's a bit like bees, isn't it? When bees are dying out that time of the season, they start looking a little bit drunk and they stop flying about and they just kind of like sort of sit on the floor. Not that tarantulas and bees are related in the slightest, but that's how I would liken them, I suppose. PG said maybe a nice tropical fish tank in the gaming hobby studio. You know what, mate? I wouldn't trust myself with a pot plant, if I'm honest. Never mind anything that I had to look after. So, yeah, probably not the best. Probably not the best. It's just never, having a pet actually is not something it's ever really interested me, if I'm honest. I'm not like against animals or anything like that kind of thing. As if that's a thing, being against animals. But I'm not really like kind of like a great animal lover to the point where I would kind of sort of, I'm not even overly keen on looking after people's pets when they go on holiday. So. Well, I think I quite like that colour. I must admit that's gone on quite nice, that. So yeah, I'll have to remember Wildwood and 50-50 mix of Wildwood and contrast medium seems to do that quite well. Cohen, good evening to you, mate. It says books are such a bad user interface for a game. I much prefer cards. I love cards, mate. I mean, I'm a big fan of any game that has, well, not any game obviously, but like if a game has cards and if it's starting to kind of tick the right boxes and stuff, and actually to the point where there are games I'm interested in, like Infinity, for example, where I'll probably make my own cards for them. It's what I love about Warcry. It's what I love about Vanguard when I first started playing it. It's what I love. I really like it about Kings of War Marder, that the cards are right there in front of you and you're not having to try and remember all the stats. I just think it works really well, and I know obviously there's a cost involved, and people trying to keep them updated and stuff. But yeah, games like Wild West Exodus, Malifaux, anything that's got cards in them already kind of gets a little bit of a kind of a thumbs up from me at the start. Certainly, I just like being able to reference rules when I need them and not having to either keep them in my head or having to keep looking for them in a book. Coin says, like Wild West Exodus, actually brilliant accessible rules on cards you can just print off. Yeah, I think if you play it quite often, I can imagine. I don't know how often they're updating cards at the moment, but certainly when it first came about, it was one of the things that put me off Wild West Exodus in the early days. I thought the rules were good, but they were constantly moving things because it was still kind of settling down, and it was one of the things that put me off in the early days. But yeah, it seems to have settled down now, to be fair. I guess it's like any new game, really. There's always that kind of, not learning curve, but kind of like sort of intro, if you like. Marcus is saying, trying to get Green Knight now is insane. Most cost over $85. I'm surprised it's such a big thing now. I'm kind of 3D printing and stuff. I'm surprised nobody's really like sculpted something quite similar. Andy Smith says, snakes and spiders for the room. Definitely not, mate. It's bad enough getting there to just like if any spiders get in. Obviously, I live right next to kind of some stables, so we already get like sort of all manner of weird things coming across to the garden. The horses seem to kind of scare them away, I think. Right, this is I'm using now this contrast Majos purple. Again, a 50-50 mix with the contrast medium, but it's a little bit pale. I think I might potentially just go straight onto with the paint rather than the contrast, rather than this contrast, because I don't think you can probably hardly even see it on camera, to be honest. I think we'll just. I don't want to go with the other purple, which is a shyish purple, because it's almost black. So I think we're going to go with Venetian purple instead, I think. Where are we up to here? Peter says you could get some wind-up fish. My little boy had one of them. He got one as like a Christmas gift once. They were pretty good, actually. Daniel says, yeah, a lot of the Bretonian stuff's expensive now. Marcus is saying he wants more tree frogs or fire-bellied frogs. Wow. Warwick says, I'm sad the cards for Vanguard aren't in the rulebook. To be honest, I'll be perfectly honest, that doesn't bother me. They're not in the rulebook for Wild West Exodus. They're not in the rulebook for certainly not all of the cards are not in the rulebook for Warcry and stuff. That kind of stuff doesn't bother me so much, if I'm honest. If you're gonna if you want the card, if you're buying the minis anyway, you're gonna get the cards, and I can appreciate why companies do that now. I mean, obviously some will give the cards for free, like things like Malifaux, Wild West Exodus give the cards for free, but they're not in the books. It just means that the rule book doesn't go out of date too quickly. I do like to kind of support the company. We've been down this road too many times, but I do like to kind of support the company that's sort of with the game. So I'd be buying. And then you've got all the sort of things like what they called. I'm trying to remember what it's called now. Easy Army, that type of stuff. Like Battle Scribe, those kind of things. I think YouTube's potentially playing up a little bit as well. You might be getting a little bit of buffering at the moment. I think YouTube's having a bit of a moment. Either that or my internet's having a bit of a moment just for a change. It's normally pretty good, the internet, to be fair here. Every now and again, it looks like it's gone back to normal. Where are we up to? Peter saying, whatever happened to nice pets like hamsters and rabbits? I know. People have like pigs and stuff now, mate. Mark says 30-gallon saltwater aquarium is the dream. Wow. Mark says, did you see the artist Empire guy who does the overpainting of people miniatures? I haven't, mate. No. Where would I find his stuff? It sounds really interesting. Not even heard of it, mate. You'll have to send me a link or something so I can see it. Marty says hamsters are mean little jerks and rabbits chew and everything. Tony said he had a pet goldfish. Was most amused when I found that. Oh, you know what it is? I forgot now, mate. But I remember like saying, "You're either winding me up or that's the best name ever." I couldn't remember what it was now. Cohen says Major's purple is already quite pastel and light. It depends on the paint whether or not you have to thin with medium. It just the medium tends to just stop it. Sort of. You know, like getting like the tide marks a little bit. But some of the lighter contrast paints get a bit of a tide mark, a bit like a wash. So anyway, I've thinned down this Phoenician purple. So we'll just carry on with that anyway and keep it going. Having a pet chat. You get if you're getting into pet chat, I'm completely lost. I know nothing about animals, so you'll have to talk amongst yourselves for that one. Yeah, Peter says YouTube just dropped them down. Put it back yourself now, back to 1080. It should be fine. But I don't know if it was just having a bit of a moment. What happens is, like on my screen, which is like completely different to what you see, it's got all of the kind of like the data in the background about what's happening, how many people are viewing it. All that kind of stuff, audio quality and things. But it comes up like there's a big yellow like sort of banner comes across the screen if there's any issues, and it basically, for all I can't read it from here, I know that it basically says that it's that YouTube's not receiving enough data. It happens once in a blue moon, but randomly it never seems to show up. You know, like if you watch the stream back when it's been recorded, it doesn't seem to show up in that. So that's what makes me think it's a bit of a YouTube problem as opposed to an issue with me sending data. So, because if I wasn't sending the data, it would be dead choppy when you watch it back as well. Anyway, no worries, you're a handsome devil. Blizzard says yeah, he's been getting some intermittent buffering. Yeah, it seems like I say, it seems to have passed by now. That was it, Genghis Khan. That was the name of the goldfish. I honestly thought you were winding me up when you first told me, mate. What a name for a goldfish, Genghis Khan. Kath says, you've raised human children, pets would be a breeze. Yeah, but the difference is human children actually grow up and start to listen. And pets want a hell of a lot more attention than kids do. Peter Max says, I was here first. Not this stream, but like here. Yoakum says, even in Forks, it's hard to paint at the same time as you watch the Europa League final. Much easier to watch one. Do you know what? I forgot the Europa League final was on, mate. Not that I'd really be watching it anyway, but yeah, it's Man U tonight, isn't it? Do you know what? Like I've said about this before, I find it really hard to like build stuff, like whether it's building models or whether it's building terrain. I find that so much more difficult than actually painting on the stream and having a conversation. Because I feel like I can focus on the painting. I think it's because it's a bit more freeform, I think, and just like let the brush do its thing type of thing when I'm having a conversation. But when I'm trying to build something and I'm trying to sort of concentrate, I find it really, really difficult. But yeah. You'll have to just put up with my voice, mate, while you're watching the football, eh? Corn says, what type of brush are you using now? Seems really nicely to hold its point. Do you know what it is, mate? It's one of those super, super cheap ones from Amazon that come in like a big pack called a Rock Ninja. And it does have a really nice point, to be honest. Like I think some of my nicer brushes seem to have kind of lost their points, and I do look after them. I've used them with like brush soap and stuff, so I do look after them. But randomly, they seem to be maybe they're just getting a bit old now. But yeah, I bought these a little while ago just to kind of see how cheap brushes compared to more expensive ones, because I've got some Winsor & Newton and I've got some Artist Opus brushes. And to be honest, think do the expensive ones last longer? Yeah, I'm sure they do. I'm still dubious as to whether they last longer because I know they were more expensive, so I take better care of them, or whether they last longer because they're actually physically better brushes. I'm not really sure. But yeah, these cheap ones, they seem alright. Even if they don't last as long, they were a fraction of the price. So I'm tempted just to pick up a batch of these really and just keep them on hand. But yeah, I tend not to like the ones with the longer bristles because I just like, for example, the Winsor & Newton ones I've got. I like these because they've got like a shorter. I don't know if I can say it, probably better like that. They've got a shorter tip to them, like compared to these. And I tend to like painting with the shorter tips. But these ones seem to kind of hold their point quite nicely, and they seem to kind of spring back as well. So yeah, they were super cheap, these ones. Just scroll up a little bit here. I've missed a few little bits. John saying we used to get texts about Hermes deliveries saying Attila is on his way. You don't want them coming, do you? Tissy Rendering says he's got a cat, Gigi, who was a stray, and you think people who lived in the apartment before was abandoned when they moved out. Wowzers. Yeah, you can't do that with kids, like, to be fair. It's kind of a bit of a lifelong commitment when you have kids. Busey says, what happens when the kids want pets, though? You take them to the zoo, mate, or something like that. Or you take them to the farm. The thing is, kids want pets until they've got one, and then the novelty wears off. My older lads are like obviously they're 18 now, but when they were younger, they did have a rabbit, and like the novelty wore off very, very quickly. And then guess who ended up looking after the rabbit? It became my responsibility. So yeah, so now I just don't bother. Cal says, I'm sorry, they start to listen. They listen in terms of they reply. It doesn't mean they take any notice. That's not going on too badly. Okay, I think probably need. I think I'm going to try actually that. I think there's a contrast paint that's a bit darker than that Wildwood. Brown. Yeah, I think it's the Saigo Brown, which is really quite dark. Oops, there. I think I'm going to use that for our hair, just to give a little bit of colour to it. Tasty Brain Traces, I never realised how much better a pet can make your life. I think for me, mate, it's just things like, so, well, initially, apart from the fact that I'm not that keen anyway, it was more just like travelling with work and stuff. It wouldn't mean just like leaving one at home all the time, so that's why I've never had one in the past. Quite a feet up weekend, I think. When the family comes over on Sunday, it's like my brother-in-law and sister-in-law and their two kids are coming over. So me and my brother-in-law is going to go for a few beers around bedtime when the kids are coming to sleep. So that'll be quite nice. I've not seen him in ages, to be honest, so it'll be nice to catch up. They put their parents into nursing homes. You're going to say just a red team from Manchester and a yellow one from Spain. Yeah. If they had helmets on and they were throwing a ball around, mate, I might have cancelled the stream for it. But yeah, my days of following footballs I became disillusioned with it a long time ago when my team basically just gave up and fell through the leagues. I wouldn't mind if it was any kind of hope, but it seems pretty hopeless. It's funny how you and I don't know if this is the same for everyone, but if your team's in the Premier League, you kind of keep an eye on what's happening in football and stuff. And then as they just drop down through the divisions, I couldn't name half Premier League now. Like I don't really even look to see the results. I mean, I watched the FA Cup final, which I actually quite enjoyed because I hadn't seen any football in ages. But yeah, I tend not to watch it really. Right. All right. Use that brown as well to do some leather straps around her waist. VJ, good morning to you, sir. Hope you're well. Kath says she's glued the geishas together. Bill Algren's giving me grief. It sounds like the name of a next door neighbour that's just causing you a few problems. Bill Algren's giving me a right old earache. Peter said he bought one of them Raphael Klinsky ones, and I find my Ammo Mig or cheap Amazon ones better. It's funny, isn't it? I mean, I think potentially, if like I said before, I think better brushes, in theory, should last longer and they should retain their point longer. But I'm still convinced that an element of that is the fact that you pay so much for them that I think you kind of take extra care. Because I know for a fact if you don't look after them, they don't last any longer. So my painting is not at the level where I feel the need to kind of splash a fortune now. I did kind of I noticed a bit of a difference in the level of my painting, and this might be one of two things, but I noticed a bit of a difference the first time because I used to just use Games Workshop brushes because it was handy and it was local and I didn't know anything any better, if I'm honest. But I noticed that the first set of like half decent brushes I bought were from Rosemary and Co. And I saw actually a bit of an improvement in my painting. Now I'm kind of torn with the reason. Was it the fact that I actually bought some better quality brushes, or was it the fact that I just didn't know enough when I was kind of first starting out then, and actually my brushes were just worn out and they were probably goosed, and I didn't even think about things like sort of bent tips or getting the point on them properly. I obviously know a lot more now than I did then, and maybe I saw an improvement just because I had new brushes again, to be honest. But I think it's like a lot of things, isn't it? I think almost if you pay a lot of money for something, you kind of almost convince yourself that like, oh yeah, it's definitely better. I'm justifying why I spent all that money on it. There's definitely an element of that, I think. Not for everyone, but yeah, it's. I'm not sure that my painting is at the level where I'd really notice much difference. He says he just crawled out of bed up too late. Gonna have to have a makeup run tonight. I'm impressed by your commitment, mate, to running. I do need to get my backside back out and get some exercise in again now the gyms are open and stuff. I find running quite soul destroying, if I'm honest. I find it a little bit boring, and the problem is the fact that 80% of the time it's absolutely chucking it down here. So that's why I tend to go to a gym instead. Not because I'm some kind of gym bunny, just because it's dry. Yeah, I must admit I haven't been since they've reopened. I was getting a bit of a routine going when they opened, well, before they closed, I should say, or when they opened last time. Yeah, I'm kind of a bit out of practice at the minute. Right, that's coming on all right. Tiberius is saying, to be fair, I've worked with children who've been abandoned. Can't even begin to imagine what drives somebody to that. What's the sin if you could get another dog? I'd get a beagle. I'd like a corgi, but it's so hot in Texas, the poor thing would be shedding fur all the time. I guess temperature. I've probably not even thought about like the difference of like certain dog breeds with certain temperatures. Like I say, it's not really my strong point. Right, I'm gonna get a bit more of that purple there. I'm just painting a little bit here, and I've just missed that bit out. Warwick saying, when the kids want pets and you don't, just say no. Exactly. If they start paying the mortgage, then they can start deciding whether we have pets at home or not. Peter saying the stream's gone. Oh, one here as well. I don't know whether you can hear me or not. Let me just it's gone off at this side as well. Well, on the bit that tells me that it's kind of like the preview bit anyway. So it could be still on. I don't know. So if you can hear me, great. If you can't, hang on. I'm trying to control something that's miles away at the minute. Tell you what. Give me 2 seconds while I yeah, I don't know what the hell was going on with that one. It was saying that the stream was excellent, but the bit that previews it just looked like it had gone off or something like that. So weird. YouTube playing funny buggers tonight. How very dare it. How very dare it. Right. Everyone's saying, yeah, it was temporary. VG saying, yeah, so people are gym people, not me. I need to be actually going somewhere. I normally stop and grab a coffee on my run, running on treadmills. Shit me. I just find it I find it like relentless, just like just running away from home and being too tired to come back. Marcus is saying the only time I buy individual brushes is to get 1 or 2 extra fine tips on makeup brushes for dry brushing. Lord Maiden says, what's a gym bunny? A gym bunny is just somebody that basically like goes to the gym all the time and is proper obsessed by it and proper into the weights and almost goes there to kind of to pose and hang out and stuff like that a little bit. That's what I call a gym bunny anyway. But yeah, no, it's not me. I go just to exercise really, and it's just the fact that the gym near me is in walking distance. That means I haven't got to rely upon having a car, because we've only got one car now since I started doing this full time. It was one of the things I could back on, not needing a second car. So it's walking distance for me, and I can kind of just go and have my workout. So yeah, the weather here is a little bit restrictive, really. To be fair, we don't get nice enough weather to make the most of exercising outdoors. And I'm certainly not keen of getting up in the middle of December to go for a run. Lord Maiden. Hello, is this the centaur you're looking for? Johnson, yeah, you sent and came back maybe 30-second gap. Yeah, it was. I honestly think YouTube's having a few. I've been seeing some issues when I've been watching YouTube videos where it's been kind of buffering and stuff recently, and they're like pre-recorded ones. I don't know whether, because I'm assuming it's not my internet, because I've had absolutely no problems streaming things like Netflix and that type of stuff. Like watching movies, the little one seems to have no issues watching his sort of cartoons on Disney and things. I don't think it's the internet. Maybe YouTube's just having a bit of a moment. Did I just read something from Colin there and I've skipped over it? That was it. Colin says, I seem to suffer with hook tips. Is this because they're cheap brushes, or am I doing something wrong? I think it's essentially when paint dries in the brush itself, You just need to make sure that do you use brush soap to get them clean? Because I tend not to get hook tips, but I do use brush soap after every painting session. Marcus says here in the States, people are always at the gym are called gym rats. Yeah. Maybe it's just some kind of animal bunny, some kind of animal gym. Sorry, or gym, some kind of animal. Gym rats. That makes them sound dirty. At least with gym bunnies, they're clean. There's a brand in the UK called Gym Shark. I wonder if that's another term for it as well. Right. I completely missed one of her fingers there. Some fur around her boots. She's got heads, severed heads, like shrunken heads, hanging off her waist here. Right. Little wash. Owen says, for a moment there, I thought you turned into Arnie and wanted to come to the gym. No, definitely not, mate. Right, what was I just going to do there? Well, that was it. There's a bit of skin that I've missed on our finger there. Yeah, VG saying, admittedly, it does get harder to go for a run at 5 AM when it's cold. I think your cold's almost our summer though, mate. I mean, it's May at the minute, obviously, as you're all very much aware, and it has done nothing but chuck it down all month. I think from tomorrow the weather's supposed to be getting a little bit better, so fingers crossed we start to get a bit of sunshine this weekend, especially with everybody being sort of having plans for the bank holiday weekend. But yeah, it's pretty dang miserable. Right, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick with that darker brown. I'm going to do our boots in that brown, I think. Type said, it was always raining in Denley Moor, except on days when it were fine, and there weren't many of them. Not if you include drizzle as rain, and even if it wasn't drizzling, it was overcast. A gym pigeon, being in some kind of a flap. We do say pigeons are like flying rats, aren't they? So that would work as well. Kat says it's 4 weeks from midsummer in the UK and highs are about 15. No, honestly, I think we're getting like all excited about the idea. It might hit about 16, 17 here over the weekend. We're not exactly a tropical climate here, are we? Basically saying you can hook a tip by always bending the bristles on your stroke in the same direction. I think, to be honest, mate, I think I move my brush around too much to keep them always going in the same direction. I think, like, so as I'm holding like that, I'll kind of spin it as I'm moving around and things. So I don't think I always do it in the same direction, but who knows? I tend not to get the hook tip on them anyway, so whatever I'm doing, it's not causing it. I don't think it's to do with the quality of the brushes, that's for sure. Mark says, I said it earlier in the chat, but over here, a gym bunny is a hot chick who works out a lot. Ah. Yeah, it probably means this. Well, it probably means the same here, to be fair, as well. But I think it's become used just to anybody that works out a lot, I suppose. Right. I think we're not doing too bad. I'm just going to put a little bit more in the hair there. I'm trying to basically just not like go overboard with this and not sort of stress about it too much. Just keep it pretty simple. Peter says, I use the gym a lot and got very powerful legs. I could press the whole stack, but my arms and chest not so much. Were you the only person that ever went to the gym, mate, and didn't skip leg day? Is that what happens? Did you do everybody else's leg days? Right, for the snakes, folks, what colour you think? I'm considering going with red for the snakes. Because I kind of want it to stand out a little bit, to pop a little bit. What colour would you do the snakes? There's a snake kind of wrapped around her arm here. There's a one that comes around the staff, and there's a one around her leg there as well. So, what colour would you do them? This red will kind of go with the purple. So I know that. I had considered green, but I think it might stand out. Sort of, it might be a little bit garish. You know, if I went with like a bright green, it'll end up looking like what they call them sweets, the thingies and limes, where they're kind of purple and green. It might end up looking a bit like that. Vijay says, that said, I love running along the beach. I go every morning taking pics to rub it in you guys. To be honest, I live near the beach as well, and if it's a nice day, it is quite nice to go for a run along the beach. But yeah, just like I say, it's not something I'd end up doing every day, purely just for the... because it's not quite the same running along when it's chucking it down. But you don't want to hear about the weather here. I'm conscious that because it's pretty shitty weather here on a regular basis, I end up talking about poor weather quite a lot. I must try and stop doing that. Andy said orange snakes. Yeah, orange might do it. Orange and purple, they go together okay. To be honest, if I do them red, I'll probably end up highlighting them up to orange anyway, so that might not be a bad shout. Right, I'm just coming back in with a bit more of that purple just to give it a bit more of a better coverage, because it's a bit light in places. Corn says red, white, black rattlesnakes would contrast nicely, but might be hard at that scale. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to go with sort of anything too fancy. I'll probably kind of, I might paint it red, give them a bit of a wash to pick out the scales and stuff, because there is some, to be fair to the people that's made it, there is actually some scale, like there is some scales on the snakes. I'm just not good enough to paint it, that's all. So the wash will kind of pick them out a little bit, and then I might just highlight it up from there. Right, that's the purple. Tony says turquoise snake. I had thought about that, mate. I'd picked this colour out to actually to kind of to have with it, so I might do that. I might do that, mate. I might use that colour. Just clean up a second. Walking on the beaches, looking at the peaches. Do do do. I do like that song. I watched an old episode of Black Mirror last night with my wife. That was on Netflix, just something to watch for like about an hour or something like that. And as the credits were coming up at the end of the episode, Hang the DJ by the Smiths or Morrissey, whichever it was, pretty much it was the Smiths. Was the song that was on at the end. I forgot how much I like that song. Just reminded me when you said about that. Who sang "Walking on the Beach"? Was that the Stranglers? Was it? Got that in my head. That was the Stranglers. I can't think if it is now. But yeah, good song. Bliss says I'd end up googling snakes and spend the next 2 hours. I would probably paint them green. Yeah, do you know what it is, mate? I did a similar thing when I was painting the snakes for Mythos. I ended up doing far too much research looking at them. I think I'm going to go with the turquoise. I'm going to go with the blue that I picked out before. Marcus says last time I went to the gym, I freaked people out by doing leg presses 150 pound by my tiptoes. I'm not a dancer, but as a martial artist, I use a lot of kicks. Oh mate, there's a guy at my gym who's obviously exceptionally fit, but does all sorts of kind of like weird, like handstands and like handstand press-ups and stuff. I'm sure he does it just to try and impress the young ladies or the young guys. I've got no idea. But I'm too old for that kind of stuff. I just had a sudden burst to sing Shania Twain that don't impress me much there for a second, but it's not going to happen, so don't worry about it. Lawman says, yeah, to be honest, we do talk about the weather 40% of the time. I think it's part of being British, mate. I think it's one of the first things you learn how to say. You say mum, dad, and then you say something, either probably sorry is the next thing you learn how to say, and then basically how to just complain about the weather. I think that's pretty much just part of being British, and then you learn everything else after that. Peter says, so does he dance when he gets tipped? No, not really, mate. Understand temperatures in Fahrenheit. It's like something just thought, what's the most nonsensical way to measure a temperature? Yeah, let's do it that way. I guess it's the whole the same as like sort of feet and inches and then metric system as well. I suppose it's a similar type of thing. Like, but I do know what you mean. You know what it is? I know how to work out Fahrenheit from Celsius and vice versa, but it gets confusing when it drops below zero. So when someone's saying about how cold it is in Fahrenheit, I have absolutely no comprehension how cold that is. But if someone says like it's 70 degrees Fahrenheit, I know that is roughly about 20 degrees Celsius. So I'm all right when it's a bit warmer. It's when it gets cold. If someone says, "Oh, like it's 35 degrees," I'm like, I've got no idea how cold or how warm that is. BG says, is there any physical phenomenon that it's based on, like how Celsius is based on water freezing at 0 and boiling at 100? I'm not sure, mate. It's a good question, actually. It's one of those things I feel like I'm going to have to Google now at some point. Go and find out. But yeah, it is a good question, actually. It must be based on something, mustn't it? Michael says, did someone mention the weather? Loman says, Mum, Dad, cues along. The weather's awful. Off to the pub in that order. Pretty much, mate. Yeah, pretty much. Hence the British vocabulary. Right. Yeah, the blue was a good choice. I knew I'd picked it out for a reason. Cohen says Fahrenheit 100 is body temperature. Is that right? It probably is about right, actually, yeah. Because what's your body temperature? Like 35, something like that? 34? But yeah, you could be onto something there, mate. I suppose it's almost like with the old imperial systems, the same with weight and stuff, isn't it? Like, why is there sort of 14 pounds in a stone? Like, it obviously means, or it meant something once. Right. Well, this looks like it's coming together pretty quickly. I'm happy with that. Right, I think what we'll do is I think we'll do that staff brown as well. I'll keep it a very keep a pretty neutral colour palette. That's it. I'm impressed if they can open a tricky jam jar. Peter says, I thought the most British phrase was, I didn't do it. You're joking, mate. We apologise for stuff, even if we didn't do it. Terribly sorry. I remember asking for a trolley when I was in a supermarket in Florida, and the young girl who I was asking didn't have a clue what I was asking for, so she asked somebody else to come over to find out what it was I wanted, and then that person obviously knew that I wanted a shopping trolley, although they call them a shopping cart obviously in the States, and decided to shout somebody else over just so they could hear me say it as well. It's funny how some things like that for whatever reason, it just absolutely tickled them that I wanted a shopping trolley, not a shopping cart. And then they proceeded to tell me about how a trolley was like a bus thing, not something for taping around the supermarket. Scroll down a little bit. John says 0 Fahrenheit was as cold as Mr. Fahrenheit could get with salt and ice at a time. There you go. BG says you'd think it's based on something, but I'm beyond assuming it's bonkers. Yeah. See, we're still having temperature chat tonight, and it's not even about the weather. Paul says, oh, hello Paul, by the way. How you doing, fella? There's pretty much all decimal measurements have an SI unit, a System International. A meter is a distance travelled by a light in a vacuum in 1 second. I find that absolutely fascinating and absolutely baffling at the same time as to why you would use that as the measurement. The scientific definition of a second. Time is relative, isn't it? So how can we define time? What they always say. Is that another? That's the same snake going around there. Right, back to the blue. Marta says, such a skinny guy, my average body temperature is 96.6. I don't even know what my body temperature is like on the average. It's not something I ever... I hardly ever get weighed. I hardly ever sort of take my temperature or anything like that. I just kind of live my life about whether my jeans fit. That's kind of my and whether I feel sick or not. That's pretty much it. Right. So it's starting to come on there. Tiberius, so you noobs don't use Kelvin. Oh yeah, all my all my oven ready meals may tell me to in Kelvin. maybe if you buy your meals from Marks and Spencers or somewhere like that, maybe they tell you in Kelvin, but yeah, my Aldi specials may just tell me in Celsius and Fahrenheit. Michael says, I came to the back of the queue of traffic today and stopped. The lights changed, the bus at the front set off, and the guy in front of me finally realised he was queued behind parked cars. Oh my god. I remember coming along a road once, and I thought there was loads of cars parked up. Like, I kind of came around a corner, and I thought there was loads of cars parked up at the side of the road. I thought, oh, there must be something on. So I kind of overtook them. And it wasn't until I caught that ambulance up at the front of the queue that I realised the ambulance through before I got there. For whatever reason, he didn't have his siren on. Yeah, I felt like a right dick. I'd basically just a bit of an ambulance chaser. And I know an ambulance chaser means something different, but I actually was an ambulance chaser that day. Literally. Moosington, how you doing, fella? Nice to see you. Lord Maiden says they're more expensive, but the onion rings are worth it. Marks and Spencer's not that expensive. It is if you shop at Aldi, mate. It's not quite Waitrose levels or Booths, but yes. When I used to work in Manchester, the hotel that we used to stay in at Salford, or basically where our office was in Salford Quays as well, but the hotel I used to stay in had a Booths right next door, and I used to like nip in there to get like a meal for lunch or something like that. Thank God. Never realised just how expensive like supermarkets can be. Definitely for the posh people. Right. Gotta tidy up some bits and pieces. I think we'll put a little bit of jewellery on it, I think, as well. A bit of gold. Tony said, I think Mr. Ears was 0 Kelvin when I dropped him. I've just been where's mine? It's up there. I was building mine up the other day. Let me just grab them. I knock the camera while I'm doing it. I quite like that Mr. Ears model. I've been putting my resin bases on as well. Let me just get a bit of light. They're hefty size, those models. I really do like some of them. Lost World Exodus, the bigger ones. Vijay says, was a super blood moon here last night. Got a nice view with my binoculars. I don't own any binoculars, mate. I think my neighbours would think I was a peeping Tom. James Bray, good evening to you, sir. How are you doing? How is Tricks, buddy? How are you feeling after your job and your 2.5 hour wait? I've actually managed to bring the date of my second job forward. So I get mine in a couple of weeks' time now. My second one. So I'll definitely be superhuman by the time the UK Games Expo comes around. I was already going to have my second job beforehand, but it was probably only about two weeks beforehand. And now it's going to be over a month. So, well over a month actually. About 6 weeks in advance. Reggie says decimal based systems are just easier to work with. Doesn't take an imperial rocket scientist to work it out. Yeah, I do find that, but it's random. I think it's just because, like in the UK, we're just awkward. Basically, that's pretty much the problem. We've kind of hung on to a mixture of the two for too long. So now when we try to kind of go more metric based, for things like kind of kilos and stuff like that. Which happened a few years ago. Like I think they started like banning supermarkets from kind of showing the weights in like grams and stuff. And I think even now people are still, maybe not young, like not younger people, but older people are still kind of trying to get their head around like what like as it like not grams, sorry. Sort of ounces and stuff. I think they're still trying to get their head around like what's 200 grams of something, like what is that compared to what they're used to. Right, we've got a little skull there. I think we might, do we want to give him yeah, we're going to give him a purple hat, I think. Cohen said, I think the UK didn't want to use metric because the French spearheaded it. That would not surprise me in the slightest, mate. We're not known for being the most accommodating, are we? Certainly would not surprise me if that was the reason behind it. Right. Tony said he had his second jab on Saturday. How are you feeling, mate? Everything okay? No side effects? Yeah, I managed to cancel. My wife was saying you can cancel your second booking and rebook it again, because there's some more dates become available now. I think they're obviously trying to roll it out faster now as well. So I managed to cancel it yesterday and rebook. Not only could I rebook it for like a month earlier, it was also a lot closer as well, because I had to travel quite a distance to get mine for the first one. So this new one's not very far away as well. So winner, chicken dinner on both counts. Andy says, temp at which oxygen boils. My God, we're still talking about this stuff. James said, he's good, thanks, mate. Sore arm, but that's it. I'll tell you what, mate, you'd have a sore arm, wouldn't you? You'd take that. Corn is right. Metric versus Imperial was because of a French and British trade argument. My God. Politics in the world, eh? Isn't it always the way? So, talking of miniature games, which we weren't, has anybody picked up anything new recently? Anybody looking forward to anything? Have you started painting something new? Anybody backed any Kickstarters, anything like that? Nice to hear what people are up to. Helps me keep my finger on the pulse about what people are looking forward to, what you're interested in, what you think is rubbish. That's just as important as well. BG says Brexit proved the UK will cut its nose to hold on to outdated methods of doing things. I'm not sure that was quite it, mate, to be fair. I mean, I voted to stay, not to leave Europe, so I'm not a big sort of fan of the Brexit thing, so I'm not defending it, but I don't think it was as simple as that. Paul said he's reading the rules for Anno Domini 1666. Don't know anything about that, mate. I've not even heard of it. What I assume by the year in that title, it's some form of historical game, is it? James says not being painting, just printing, just sanding down his Corel bust and plinth. Very nice, mate. I actually bought myself, which arrived today, like a little housing thing for my 3D printer. So where it is in the garage next door, I found the odd print I've had is kind of had the bottom. So a couple of them have had the bottom edge just curl up slightly. And when I'd read to see what was causing it, it's basically to do with like temperature changes while it's kind of like either during the print, when the print's finished, like as it's starting off. So because obviously the garage isn't heated all the time, I only turn the heating on when I come in here. And obviously as the back door opens, it might cause drafts and stuff. I think the temperature changes and obviously getting a bit cooler overnight, they were causing a few print issues. So I've bought like an enclosure thing for it. It wasn't particularly expensive. Like it's a bit like almost like a foil lined tent type thing that it fits in. It has vents to let the airflow like from the fan stuff get out. But I've set something away printing in it since then, and it seems to be absolutely like what a difference it seems to be making. I didn't need it when it was upstairs in that like little kind of sort of bathroom, like sort of ensuite room before. But yeah, it seems to have made a huge difference. Moose said he's finished his autumn comp entry for Hobby Homies. Nice one, fella. And he's building his Bot War starter set. Nice. Where was that one? Lord Maiden said he's waiting for a new Moonstone book that will be going to Kickstarter next month. I also bought 2 of the Outpost mystery fantasy boxes. Outpost. I don't know what they are, mate. Is that something new, is it? John said he's got a Mega Battle for Kings of War book tomorrow, 2v2. They're just great fun. I'll have to get myself out for one of them. Maybe my dwarves will run out at some point. Now things are unlocking. I'm still not that I'll be perfectly honest though. I'm not that comfortable with going to a gaming store and wearing a mask. I find like obviously I wear them because like I respect the rules and I understand why people have to wear masks and stuff like that. But I do wear them when I go anywhere that I have to. But I do not like it. I must admit, it makes my face feel really kind of hot and itchy and stuff. Like when I went away on holiday last year for a week, we just went to Butlins last year, and you had to wear masks indoors all the time. And I ended up shaving my beard off for the week because it was just so irritating. It might be the masks that I have. I don't know. I find it really kind of, it's not very nice. So the idea of playing a game for like 2 or 3 hours with a mask on all day, I must admit doesn't fill me full of excitement, if I'm honest. It's one of the reasons I've not like sort of gone to the gaming store yet. But yeah, I'm not like anti-mask or anything. It's just if I can get away with not wearing it by not going, I'd rather do that. Have a little bit of let's go with a bit of Zanri dust. There's a bit of fur on the bottom of our boot. Let me just scroll up a little bit. Mart says he's narrowed his Malifaux choices down to either Europides or Lady Justice thoughts. I'm a big fan of Lady Justice. When I got back into 3rd edition, like not that long ago, I bought the Lady Justice box set. I really like it. So I'm probably a little bit biased. I don't think I know the Europides one. Let me just let me do a little Google for it. If that's how you spell it anyway. Got in there. See what it looks like. It might have completely missed me by. I know which one you mean now. I didn't realise that's what they were called, mate. Yeah, do you know what it is, mate? With your painting style, mate, like obviously you're a hell of a painter. I think I'd like to see what you did with those. I think there's a lot more opportunity to. I mean, the Lady Justice ones are really nice, but I think the nicest models in that box are the Death Marshals with the flames coming off the coffins and stuff. But I actually think just purely for the models, I think I like that. I think I like that box. I think that could be cool, man. I'd like to see what you did on them one, but obviously it's your choice. Don't be it by me. But yeah, I think that's a good choice, mate. Busey saying he's back Pirate to the Dread Sea Kickstarter. In the end, really fancy those minis. I've got those minis, mate. I must admit, I've not even got them on the printer yet to have a look at them. He sent me over to have a look at. And with everything else, I've been getting wrapped up here and stuff. I've not had a chance to print any of them off yet. Have a little look here. Tony said he's looking forward to getting stuck into painting his fighting fantasy minis. I remember you saying, mate, you'd back that Kickstarter. Very, very nice. Happy with the quality of them, mate? I don't think I've seen any pictures of them. I don't know whether you've shared any pictures and I've just missed them, but are you happy with the quality? Everything okay with them? Tasty Brain Drain said he's picked up Director Krennic from Star Wars Legion. A very pleasant surprise, as I wasn't expecting the store to have it. Is it a relatively, when I say old, I don't mean it's an old kind of like ancient model. I just mean has it been out for a little while, mate? Right, I think what we'll try is we'll try a bit of the Basilicum Grey Contrast for a bit of kind of like sort of greyed out hair on the shrunken heads. Like I said, he went to his local GW 30 miles away, but still for the first time in 20 years and bought a 40k recruit box for me and the boy to paint and game with. I'll tell you what, mate, what I will say, regardless of what I think of Games Workshop games in general, those starter boxes that they have are fantastic value. Like, no wonder so many people pick them up as their kind of first entry into gaming. They are absolutely fantastic value. I wouldn't say they were a loss leader. I can't imagine GW ever does anything at a loss. But yeah, they really are a great way to get like younger folks and complete beginners into those games. Right. Yeah. Paint some of those shrunken heads need to be a bit not kind of colour do I want to do those? I think I'm gonna go with the skeleton horde contrast. And then I might just dry brush them up a little bit. Cassie's cracked it, glued Bill Algren together. Nice one. Paul saying it's fictional history games, or historic games set in 1666 in Vienna. Basic premise: Austrian emperor died without an heir, and the various electors and external factions are gathering to select a new one. Ah, nice. Mart says his current painting project is a mutant rat fiend for Kings of War using oils. I have never used oils before, mate. How are you finding it? Are you finding it quite? Is it a different sort of process completely, or is it just giving you do you find you're painting in the same way, but you just you're getting a completely different effect, or do you find you're having to sort of have a new style, if you like? I've never tried painting with oil, so I could be talking complete bollocks at the minute, mate. Actually, I quite like that skeleton horde on him. Going together quite nice. Right, what now? I think we're going to do a nice bright red feather in that purple hat, just to give it a little spot of colour. You want like a bit of fleshed hair of red. Always a nice bright red. Lord Maiden says they're like loot boxes, but fantasy miniatures based on the Outpost is like Goblin Gaming. Oh, so Outpost, the store Outpost. Sorry, mate, I didn't know what you meant. I thought Outpost was a game or something. £25 a box with free shipping seemed worth it. I can always send stuff to people. Ah, nice, mate. I always find those loot boxes. I mean, I think they tend to be good value. You tend to get at least your money's worth, if not a little bit more. But for me personally, it ends up just being a load of stuff that I'll probably never use. People have sent me them in the past to review and stuff, and I find it hard to review them because I personally don't see the value in them. So I've never really kind of reviewed them on the channel and stuff because like I say, it for me, they're not what I would use. But for other people, I can completely see why they like them. If you're more of a painter or you like finding kind of obscure minis and stuff, I can completely understand why folks would like them. Right, that's that bit. I need to do. Oh, actually, that red I've got out. I'm gonna use that for a little bit of the stuff there as well. Moose saying, yeah, we've had to wear masks for extended periods. I find it hard to breathe, to be honest. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't know whether it's kind of like a mental thing with me or what, but I find them really restrictive. And I'm really glad that I don't kind of work in a job where I have to wear them all day. I think I would really struggle with that. And like I say, maybe it's the kind of masks I've got. Maybe they're too thick or whatever it is, but I really don't like it. I know I have to wear it, and I always do. Doesn't mean I have to like it. I'm looking forward to when they become optional, put it that way. So, John saying, "Yup, masks all day at work is a real pain." Yeah, honestly, I feel for anybody that has to wear them all the time. BG saying, "Still working on these damn flayed ones for the mini swap." They're quite. I mean, this is going to sound terrible now. They're quite small, the new flayed ones, aren't they, mate? They're not. I don't think they're not particularly big models. I'm not saying they're quick to paint, so please don't jump down my throat. But are they quite small, the flayed ones? I'm sure I've read somewhere that they're quite kind of a bit thin and a bit spindly. Right, that's that bit. I think we'll put a little bit of. I do like a bit of Nuln oil on a skull, like a skeleton thing. John says a lot of people buy a drink and have that slowly while playing to be maskless. I'd feel too bad for that, mate. It feels like a loophole. But I mean, I completely understand. Like, I understand why I have to wear them, and you know, like I say, I'm not against it. But I'll be honest, it puts me off doing certain things. So, for example, like the Metro Centre is a big indoor shopping centre near where I live. For those of you that don't know my area, and I went back end of last year towards Christmas time to do a bit of Christmas shopping, and I absolutely hated just being indoors all the time with the mask on, queuing to get into shops. So there was only like a limited amount of people inside, because I don't like queuing to get into a shop to just have a look around. It's like it just felt, it kind of took all any enjoyment. I used to kind of quite enjoy having a day out, kind of just wander around the shops and stuff and having a bit of a browse, maybe treat myself to something. But it kind of took the enjoyment out of it. It made shopping become kind of like just a purely like a purposeful. I am literally just going to go there, get what I need, and I'm going to come back. And I completely understand why everybody's kind of shopping online these days and stuff now, and why like local stores are obviously struggling. It's not an enjoyable experience. Yeah, the Frost Giants. That'll be why. Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen those minis before, if I'm honest. Warwick saying, if I had a transplant and had zero immune system, I've had a transplant and have zero immune system. I was wearing a mask outdoors to keep the dust and pollen over 2 years before COVID hit. In the heat, cold wind, I'm not bothered at all by masks. I can imagine, mate, if it's like kind of, if it's a bit more kind of life or death, if you like, I can imagine it's one of those things that you just have to do. And to be fair, I'm wearing it now. Like I'm wearing it because I have to. But what I'm choosing to do is to not do stuff because I don't want to be wearing a mask for hours on end, kind of thing. So it's not that I'm like resisting wearing it. It's just making me choose what I do. So yeah, I can imagine if it was there. I think it was one of those things where if it was going to be like that forever, whilst I wouldn't be happy about it, you've just got to kind of get used to it. And maybe I'd kind of spend some money on a nicer, more comfortable mask. But yeah, not. I'd rather just not bother at the minute. When I say not bother, I mean not bother going to those places. Right, what am I missing here? Feels like I'm missing something. I need a little bit more brown. I've just got a thumb there that I've missed. Thought it was a snake's head, but there's no way it can be. So. It could have been actually. She could have two snakes crawling up my hand. Johnson, you'd be welcome when it suits you. Thank you very much, mate. I will take you up on that offer at some point. Usually say masks have to be worn even outdoors here. I've heard they might change it soon though. It was a pain last summer. I can imagine, mate, especially in really hot countries. To be honest, during the winter it wasn't as bad. Like at my little boy's nursery, they went through a phase where you had to wear masks outdoors there as well. So if you were picking children up when you were queuing to pick up the little ones, you had to wear a mask as well. And to be honest, over the winter, it was actually it was nice just to have the cold off my face. But yeah, I'm looking forward to when it's an optional thing, when everybody's a bit more protected. Paul says, I'm having a break from Kickstarters. Too many games that aren't being played, and I will back for new stuff for games I already own. Yeah, I get that as well, mate. I backed a Kickstarter for like a 3D printing thing. I backed something recently. But the difference I find with those is I'm not waiting on something to deliver. I'm not worried about it like taking like sort of being delayed by 6 months, 12 months down the line, because it's somebody who generally has already created the files before they've done the Kickstarter. So that kind of stuff doesn't bother me too much. But yeah, I know what you mean about sort of just like too much stuff not getting played. I would imagine that's affected a lot of people's kind of like back-end stuff as well. VG says, looking forward to his Marvel United arriving today. I just saw on the Patreon chat, mate, that you said you'd pick that up. I've not seen much about it other than, is it Steve Smolders, I think it is, in our Facebook group, has been painting some stuff up. But I don't know much about the game itself. Right, I feel like it needs a little bit of depth, so I think I'm going to put a bit of a wash over it, or over certain areas anyway, just to give it a bit of depth and then highlight it back up again. 20 saying the quality of the Fighting Fantasy minis are beautiful as you'd expect. Yeah, I'll post some pics. Cheers, mate. Video saying, what factions are in the new US Dominion box? It's obviously Stormcast's one of them, mate, isn't it? I've heard, what was the thing that I heard that it was? It's like not something that you'd expect. Was it like, not like goblin things? I forget now, mate, but it was something that I wouldn't have expected to see. I was quite surprised if that's true, what I've heard. I'll see if I can try and dig out the message I got. The Jezerk, good evening. So I was supposed to have a break from Kickstarter, but The Witcher Old World got me. I saw that yesterday, I think it was advertised. Yes, I saw that was coming to Kickstarter. There was a company contacted me today about a Kickstarter game, about a skirmish game that's coming out, and I'm not going to say what it is because I'm not advertising it. But like wanted me to kind of like, oh, is there any chance you could sort of help us get the word out? The game's already on Kickstarter, it's already funded, and it's got about like about 10 days left, and it's like, so basically it's not growing as fast as you thought. You didn't think I could help you initially, and now you're panicking because you need to push it up a little bit. It's like I don't mind getting involved in helping folks with their Kickstarters and things like that, if first of all I've got some time to look at it, because I'm never gonna kind of like promote something that I don't like sort of think is worthwhile. I'd hate to think somebody backs a Kickstarter that I've kind of said, oh, look at this new Kickstarter, it looks fantastic, kind of thing, and it turns out that it's absolute garbage just because they've basically like they've been robbed or something like that. So I would only ever really kind of promote or kind of like, I don't even want to say promote because it's not like I'm getting anything out of it. Like if it's, I would help somebody to kind of communicate their message if it was something that I believed in myself. But I'd need to kind of know about it in advance. Otherwise, really, what is it in for me? There's no point me kind of talking about something that's already like, it's already kind of like sort of, it's out. People already know about it in general. So yeah, I just find it funny. It happens a lot with smaller Kickstarters, first-time Kickstarters. You seem to kind of forget the marketing side, and it's a bit of a last-minute afterthought. It kind of like they put it on Kickstarter. It either funds and then gets really slow, or it doesn't fund it, and then they start to panic and start like sort of just mass emailing all the different YouTube channels and blogs and everything else, just going, please can you tell everybody about it? And it's like that's part of the Kickstarter build-up. You have to actually kind of like tell people it's on Kickstarter, tell people what it's about. Yeah, so if you ever see me talking about a Kickstarter, it's because I actually believe in it myself, not just because somebody's paying me to say nice things about it. There's a lot of that. There's some channels actually just, that's how they make their money basically, just by doing paid Kickstarter promos. It's fine if that's your business model, but it should be a bit more transparent, that's all. Reggie says, hard for something to be a loss when you're paying cents for plastic and cardboard will be just slightly less than a huge profit. I think the difference is it's not just plastic and cardboard, is it? Like, especially when you're a big company, you got a hell of a lot of overheads involved in that. Martin says, oils are so different, but bloody fun. Really forgiving, and I'd suggest anyone have a go. James Wappel does some brilliant videos. I might have to take a look at it, mate. It'd be nice just to do something a little bit different. Try it out. Yeah, I might give that a shot. I've heard about people doing it, but I've never even considered picking any up, really. It's like when a lot of people use like a lot of inks and things as well. I've not really done much with inks. I've not had great success with the stuff that I've used, so I tend to just not bother with it. Right. I think that's kind of just that little bit of liquid talent there, just filling in a few little bits of gaps and stuff, giving a bit of shade and a bit of depth to things. And a little bit around the edge of the face there, just to darken that down. A bit onto the chest. I think that's not too shabby. So we'll let that dry. I've got those little vials and things to do at the back. But we'll let that dry, and then we'll come back and we'll pick out some of the purple areas and things. Let's see what I'll do. I'll wash my brush quickly. I'll grab my bottle of water, and I'll have a little painting break. So, here we go. Let me have a little look down here. Yeah, the other one's being teased. Rumours was that it could be FEMA. Yeah, it's not what I was told it was, but I can't remember what it is now. Like I say, I have to check the message I got. Vigi says, zero interest in loot boxes. Space is already at a premium in my house. Yeah. Pay good money for stuff I not use. Vigi says, saw the graphic with the red eyes. I thought that was for AOS 3.0. Graphic with the red eyes. I don't think I've seen that, mate. I've not really been the Dominion thing was like, I think Dominion is the 3rd edition box, I think, mate. I think. I've not really kept up with it, if I'm honest. It's not something I'm really interested in, so I won't be buying it myself. So I've not really kind of kept up with it. The last thing I need is to start talking about it on a Monday night live stream and get all the grief that comes with it, mate. I've kind of had a bit of a fill of that recently. Lord Maiden says, I use a strip of metal attached to my masks, and it pinches my nose just so I can see without steaming my glasses. One of my sons wears glasses as well, and he's really struggled. They used to have to wear their masks in the classroom at college all day as well, and he was really struggling to actually see the board because his glasses were steaming up. He was having a bit of a nightmare, to be fair. Vigi says he ordered his Marvel United 100% for the gameplay. The minis are nice, but very secondary. I've been enjoying the bat reps on Tabletop Wolf's YouTube channel. Tabletop Wolf, is he the Brummy lad? Is it, I got the channel right. Andy said he's just built a universal carrier for bolt action. Nice one. Hobgoblins is the rumour, mate. Yeah, I wonder if that's what it was, mate. I wonder if that's what I heard then, because I thought it did I say goblins? Or I think that's what I was going to say, and then I thought, no, that's wrong. VJ says he's just posted the Q2 2021 mini swap on Discord. Could you pin the post for me? Can you pin posts on Discord? I will, mate, if I work out how to do it, mate. James says, Andy, have you ever tried any model agnostic games? I've tried some game agnostic games, mate. It's just called painting, and I'm actually a big fan of those. So yeah. Tony saying mini swap frenzy. Yeah, I've got an absolute pile of stuff that need painting. Now I've kind of got the studio stuff sorted. I'm feverishly printing off 3D terrain and stuff. I've got a mountain of stuff that needs to get painted so I can get it onto the table and things. Because what I don't want to do is to like record a gameplay and then basically never record another one for ages because I'm waiting to paint stuff. So I'm kind of sort of rushing through a little bit, trying to paint some of my bits and pieces at the minute. So yeah, so I want to have at least kind of like 3 or 4 factions for each of the games I'm going to play on camera. So my little boy, he's flipping 18-year-old now, but he's finished college on Friday for good until he goes to university in October. So he's going to come over the summer as well, and we're going to sort of like spend like full days recording gameplay and bat reps and stuff like that. Sam, who you've seen on the channel before, playing bat reps with me. We've got some plans with me and him to basically, if we can be playing sort of like a couple of games a day and recording them, I don't need to edit them straight away, but I can record like game after game after game after game and back them up, and then get to editing them and then start releasing them on a regular schedule as well. So that's the plan, like through the summer and stuff, because once the summer comes, the 6 weeks holidays, obviously my little boy's off nursery, so I need some like sort of stuff to cover that as well, because it's not going to be easy to disappear and film while I'm looking after him as well. I can do stuff like painting and things, I can sit and paint with him, but it's going to be hard to record like bat reports and stuff. So yeah, so that's the plan why I'm kind of trying to get everything ready for them as well. I've got some stuff that I could do battle reports with now, but I don't want to do some and then have a massive gap and nothing. So I'd rather kind of start and get a little bit of like backlog of them, and then have a constant stream of stuff coming out. Excuse me. James is saying, yeah, I'm pretty much game agnostic. Me too at the minute, mate. Andy said, in other news, next RC project arrived, their 1/16th Tiger tank. Nice. Vijay says, I hope they are the vanguard for a new Chaos Dwarf force. Nah, I would doubt it, mate. I would doubt it. James says, do you do a Warcry campaign bat rep series? I plan on doing Warcry stuff, mate, purely for a few reasons. One, I know the rules inside out, so it's a lot easier to film a battle report when you know the game inside out. I've got loads of different factions for it. The size of the table means it's not like sort of too difficult to make sure everything's in shot and stuff. And I've also got Catacombs as well, which I've not played yet. So yeah, different stuff. James is saying you could bring in different people to play against your chosen warband. That might not be a bad idea, mate, actually. My brother-in-law, Jason, he likes Warcry as well, so I'm sure he'll film some stuff for me as well when it comes to that. He says, he all just in. He's been out priming, making most of a bit of weather, eh? Vijay saying, yeah, he's a pom. Not exactly sure as I know many UK accents that well. I like his back reps. Fast and easy to follow. I don't think I've seen them, mate. I used to, if it's who I'm thinking of, he used to do a lot of other stuff like bolt action stuff and that like a while ago. A bit of GW stuff as well in the past. But I've not seen his channel for quite some time, to be honest. Vijay says, he hits a bunch of his favourites: Blitzball, Street Fighter, Marvel. Yeah, I think he's obviously been back in all the same stuff you do, mate. Andy says, can you do a how to play a Warcry stuff, please? If folks are interested, I'm happy to do that kind of stuff. I'd like to do some kind of like how to play stuff as well. They take a bit more filming, they take a bit more planning. I obviously planned to do a Malifaux one a while ago and recorded all the audio for it. But what I found when I come to edit the video and put in all of the video footage that I'd done, it was just a bit wordy, and I think it was, my honest opinion was, it probably wasn't going to be interesting to watch. So I converted all of the work I'd done into the live stream basically. So when I did the how to play a Malifaux live stream, it was basically using all of the text and all the information that I'd kind of prepared for the how to play video. So I think it's probably not the best one to start with. I think there's other games that I could do how to play videos to probably find my groove of like I think Malifaux as an example is a game that benefits from being demoed. There are some games that you can show on camera, and there are some that benefit from being demoed. All benefit from being done on a live stream where people can ask questions. So yeah, I will be doing some stuff. Tony, sorry, where was that one? I was just reading something there. BG says, any more Lou plays Armada coming? I don't think there'll be any more with Lou, mate, but there will be more Armada coming, mate. I've got a what they call like a C mat coming. So that's on its way. I've also got some new Armada stuff as well, which just arrived. So there's the Dwarf Dreadnought. I've also got the Orc Ripper Hulk, which is these are the big ones. There is the Basilean Dictator, and then there is also the Empire of Dust Monolith as well. So yeah, so I've obviously got these to build and to paint. So yeah, I've got a nice selection of stuff for future bat reps, and obviously with the Armada tournament coming up in September, I'll obviously want to get some games in as well. So it works out quite well that way. James saying how to play will be good. Lots of people have gotten into the hobby on new games over lockdown and are now getting ready to play. Yeah, I think you're right, mate. I think there's an opportunity to do it. I think it's picking the right games and making them interesting, because I think the last thing they need is being a little bit too long or a bit too wordy. It needs to be very visual, I think. Andy's saying, okay, how about basic rules for it? Oh, no, sorry, mate, I wasn't having to dig about Warcry. Warcry is a perfect game to do a how to play thing. I just mean there are certain other games that are a bit more difficult. So yeah, but Warcry, yeah, if folks want to how to play Warcry, I'm up for that one. Where are we up to? VJ saying, nice. VJ says, keen for my preferred supplier to get an Armada starter box restock. Have decided to bite, but need that 20% off. Yeah, I guess when it's sort of buying locally and stuff like that, mate, trying to get a hold of them is probably a bit more difficult. We're quite fortunate here in the UK, obviously with Mantic being in the UK, Goblin doing their 20% discounts and things, and Mantic sometimes having sales as well. It's not been too difficult to pick those stuff up. BG says, love the Empire of Dust ship. Damn, I wish the Armada starter was Orcs and Empire of Dust. I've actually also got these as well. So I'm thinking of potentially taking Empire of Dust to the tournament in September. I think I'll either take Empire of Dust or I might take Orcs. I haven't decided yet. I do like the Basilean ships, I'll be honest, but the Orcs and the Empire of Dust are probably my favourites. Yeah. VJ saying, yeah, I'd love two faction I actually like. I guess it's always the same. I guess you can never do a starter box that everybody likes, I suppose, can you? Mike says, I have troubles with list building, so maybe a video showing how to make a Warcry warband. Yeah, that's not a bad shout, mate. I've done stuff like that in the past for games I think I did like a Kings of War Vanguard week where I did a different video every day and kind of went into list building. I did like a bit of a preview of the rules, like reasons why you should play it, and then kind of rounded the week off with a battle report video. So I might do that kind of stuff for some games as well. It benefits me, obviously, like there needs to be an upside to it. It benefits me when the game's not out yet and I get a bit of like early access. Obviously that really helps because then people are interested and they want to know the latest information. But for games that already exist, there's still like, it ends up being those kind of things get overlooked. And as rules change, as FAQs come out and things change, it sometimes like makes the older information irrelevant now. So it's not a case of like, because the game's a bit older, it's not worth doing. You just need to make sure that there's kind of like people that actually want to watch it. Because the amount of time it takes to do those kind of videos, it takes a lot of research, it takes a lot of filming, it takes a lot of editing. I obviously pride myself in making sure that the quality's good and things. But then if they get like 100 views or something, that time would have been better spent doing something else. That's the only thing. Andy Smith says, how many hooligans going to the expo? There's a few, mate. I know Christian's going, because he was asking me where I was staying and stuff, and Christian's booked his tickets. Christian's going. There's myself. There was somebody in the Facebook group tonight. Was it Alan, I think it was? Alan Goodenough? He's going as well. I'm not sure who else is going, mate, but yes, assuming it goes ahead, I think there's a few. Johnson, the Empire Dust ships do look great. Yeah, they're really nice, mate. I must admit that whoever's designed them, I think it was Luigi. They look fantastic. Fiji says Mantic pulled off the perfect 2-faction starter box with War in the Hold, Ratman versus Gobbo. Chef's kiss. Like, well, they did if you like those 2 factions, mate. Mike says I have like 5 Kings of War Vanguard warbands. They're just a great set of minis in a cheap box. Yeah, to be honest, it's a similar respect with the Armada stuff as well. I quite like the way you can basically just buy a box and there's enough in there to play a game with, and then you can expand on it. I think if you're really into the game and you're wanting individual ships, it's maybe not the best way, but I know Mantic are releasing individual ships soon. So anybody that's a bit more kind of, I hasten to say competitive, but looking to kind of fine-tune lists and stuff, there's an option coming for them. But I do like a game. It's one of the reasons I like Wild West Exodus, Malifaux. It's that kind of Warcry as well. I buy a box and I can play with a box. I haven't got to worry about list building too much. If I'm interested in this game, I can literally just buy this and I can play this. And that to me is really, really, it's a great starting point. I know people get a little bit like, oh, well, if I want to buy that one model, I've got to buy the whole box. But when the game's set up like that, I personally just quite like that kind of buy this, and then if I enjoy it, I can basically start list building and then buy these other boxes as well. I just find that it's a nice approach for somebody like me that's not focused on list building being the most important thing. Vigi says, I'm looking forward to checking out Vanguard with my leftover minis from Multibase and Kings of War. Vanguard's a great game. I must admit, I've not picked up the new rules yet, since they've kind of updated the rules a little bit. I've not picked them up yet, mainly because I haven't been playing games, but I will do. But I see Vanguard as a bit of a deeper version of Warcry. Warcry is quite simplistic, but I like that because actually I can just kind of switch my brain off a little bit and just kind of roll dice and have a bit of fun. But I find Vanguard has a lot of similar type of mechanics with having like sort of dice that you can use to boost things and stuff, but is a bit deeper. It's got a bit more sort of tactical edge on it, and it's a great game. It's kind of a bit, I wouldn't say it's underrated. It's just not something that you see like kind of like all over the internet like some other games. But then I think at the minute there's a lot of those games that are kind of like sort of not coming to the fore. 40k steals all the limelight as it always does. AOS is obviously picking up a little bit of information at the minute with the new release coming. But I think pretty much everything else at the minute is almost quite quiet because people haven't been playing games. Therefore, people haven't been list building. People have been painting, but I think they've been painting their backlogs and stuff as well, or they've just been buying models to paint as opposed to focusing on playing them in game. James says, just had a failed print, luckily it only failed after 5 minutes. A piece lifted up at the start and the printer was creating tumbleweed. I've not had that yet, mate. But I must admit I've not had any issues with it not sticking to the bed either. I've had the like I said, the only real issues I've had is where I've had the edge of it curling up a little bit, and like I say, when I've read about it, it's been more to do with temperature change. VJ saying that's such a smart move from Mantic. I think so, mate, but others disagree. But I think it's a clever move. But I think it's a clever move because it helps the kind of player that I am. Like I buy the things I like the look of, and if I can just buy a box and play with it, I haven't got to spend. If I have to buy the rule book to then learn how to build lists and to learn like how to kind of like play the game first before I know what I need to buy, almost my enthusiasm starts to dwindle by that point. Where if I can just buy the cool minis that I like the look of, knowing that what's in the box is playable in the game, like together, I kind of have got a head start, and then I'm already in and painting them, and then I'm kind of learning about the game. So for me personally, I like that kind of that methodology. When you've got a sort of like where I struggle with things like 40k is whenever I buy a box of like, let's say Marines for example, I never know what weapons to put on them, because I know the weapons are important. I never, unless I've bought the codex, for example, I don't know how many. Like, it's always a case of if you have a 10-man squad, 2 of your soldiers or 2 of your marines may take this weapon, 1 may upgrade it with this one, and I get lost with that kind of stuff. So what I end up doing is I end up just building them all the same, because I know generally I'm just going to paint them. It's one of the reasons I like single piece mini, like not single piece, but like single pose minis. I haven't got to worry about what weapons they come with. Like, that's just me though. VG says 27 likes. All that temperature talk was clearly worth more likes. Can't even see from here how many likes made. Tasty brain drain. You terrible man. Red Rose Wargaming says, I've been impressed with the Conquest First Blood starter boxes. You get a list and the rule book, basically all you need to get going with your faction. I've heard actually that they're really good. I've got the starter box for Last Argument of Kings, which is the bigger kind of like sort of what's it called, like mass battle version of the game. And the minis were nice. Don't get me wrong, the minis were okay, but the rules were just like, there was nothing really enticed me about the rules, and the idea of having to build a big army for something that I wasn't that kind of invested in was a bit like, well, I'm not really sure about this. And obviously it arrived, it was sent out to me right at the start of lockdown last year, so I obviously couldn't get it to the table or have any games of it either. So I've built all the box up, but they're actually they're down here somewhere. They're not painted or anything like that. But I wouldn't mind taking a look at this, like, I don't think it's like a skirmish game, is it? But it's certainly smaller scale. I wouldn't mind taking a look at that one. But I do like the idea of those kind of starter boxes, like faction starter boxes. Andy says, yeah, you were talking about what I like, a game in a box. Yeah, I guess it's like a board game, basically. If you buy a board game, you know you've got everything in that box to play it. It's like when you buy a 2-player starter set. There's too many 2-player starter sets come out where actually you already feel like there's not enough in there to play. Like, for example, I'm trying to think of an example now. I was going to say the 40k starter boxes, to be fair. I mean, they're great. They teach you the beginnings of the game, but you almost instantly feel like you have to buy more stuff. Where with things like the Warcry warbands, the Malifaux core boxes, Wild West Extras boxes, the boxes here for Armada, the Vanguard ones, the mega armies as well for Kings of War. I find that actually, like, I can buy that, I can build it, I can paint it, and I can play it. I haven't got to I haven't got to know the in-depth rules and get analysis paralysis before I even start about thinking about building them. Where are we up to here? Peter says, just take the weapons you like the look of. That's what I do, and worry later. The problem is, mate, I kind of worry before I start. Warwick says, I love the look of the Northern Alliance of Vanguard. I've got the new rulebook direct from Mantic shipped to the US, but nothing else purchased yet. Northern Alliance are nice models, mine, mate. They're one of the newer ranges. Well, I suppose they're all kind of relatively new ranges when it comes to Vanguard. There was quite a few new models in them, but they were like a newer sculpt, if you like, because I think they were created for Vanguard. But yeah, so nice models on them. BG says, I love when you can use minis in multiple systems. It's a space thing. The more games I can play with Mini X, I'm happy I am. Scroll down here. Anna saying, yeah, you can download the First Blood rules for free, then use those minis you already have. I'll have to look at that. I didn't realise that. VG says, I see Christian already did the dislike. Christian's not here tonight. Christian's out. So we know it's not Christian. I don't really care who it is, if I'm honest. Peter says, X-Wing was the prime example of the starter box that needs more, but that would be expensive. The X-Wing starter box needed another starter box. That everybody who bought an X-Wing starter box bought a second X-Wing starter box. But I find that with a lot of FFG stuff, where you find like you almost need to buy a second starter box. Paul says, miniature board games are really my thing now. Everything's in the box. It's painting projects, they're self-contained, don't need to worry about building lists, they're perfect for me. To be honest, mate, I can see, like, given time, I can see me going down a similar path as well. At the minute, I'm really enjoying kind of like sort of like the terrain aspect, the visual aspect of it is a big draw for me as well, and I think that's the only reason I've not really gone down that like sort of the board game route so much yet. But things like God Tier sitting behind me there, prime examples, Super Fantasy Brawl, those kind of things really do tick my boxes. There's no list building, it's more drafting. You can like, I mean, you can go into it deep, but essentially you just pick the things that you like. Lord Maiden says there was an old Warhammer Fantasy Dwarf Army box which the GW guy was talking to me about. It didn't have a hero inside, so you needed to pay for another model at the time. Yeah, I think there's a few of those kind of stuff, mate, isn't there? Like, I mean, obviously they've got the combat patrol boxes and stuff, which I think are a good idea. But generally, it's just a lot of it's to do with the size of the army as well. I mean, like I say, the mega armies for Kings of War, what are they, like £100 or something like that? And that's a fair sized army in that box. You're pretty much on your way to having like a full like tournament size army, really, but not too much money in the grand scheme of things. Where I think if GW ever did like an army in a box, you'd be talking about hundreds, unfortunately. Andy Smith's off the bed. Take care, mate. VJ says weapon loadout is always rule of cool. Best looking weapon wins. I agree, mate, in that, especially when I'm just painting stuff. But when you're wanting to play that game, if you build them a certain way and then realise actually you can't field them like that, then that's a bit of a pain in the arse. Peter says true. I bought 2 as well. Yeah, exactly. Andrew Bourne, good evening. He says you got the stream. Nice to see you, mate. Marcus says the X-Wing starter should have had 1 X-Wing and 1 Y-Wing and 3 TIE fighters. That would have made it way better. It also should have had more dice in as well, which is one of the reasons, and more measuring templates. Busey says more terrain printing tonight. It is, mate. I'm printing off some Wild West looking terrain at the moment from Corvus Games, which I bought. I bought like a saloon building to print off just to give it a try and see what it was like before I buy any more of the stuff. I think it was only like £6 or something like that. I've printed, in fact, let me just kick these boxes over. I've printed already. Let me grab it. So at the minute I'm busy printing off like the upstairs floor, if you like. So what I have, let me switch over here and move some of these bits and pieces out of the way. So if I move models, that's the first thing, so I don't smash it. And what I've got, if I zoom out on this camera, zoom in. So I've got, this is the downstairs of the building. And you have an option to print it with a floor or without a floor. And to me, it's like I'm not going to be playing inside the buildings or anything like that. So I've printed it without a floor just to save some plastic and some time. But there is an upstairs that then goes on top of this, which does have a floor in it. And then on my resin printer, I printed off this, so that basically goes on the front of there. And then that's the sign for the saloon. So at the minute I'm busy printing off the upstairs, and then I've got the rooftop print as well. But yeah, I'm quite impressed with the quality of the printer, if I'm perfectly honest. I mean, it's not I mean that you can see when you're looking for it, you can see layer lines, but I must admit, running my finger down, it's not pretty smooth, and by the time I prime it, you'll hardly see it. And then obviously with the design there as well, having these kind of like the wooden lats in the side, kind of hides it anyway. So how long did this take to print? I think this was about 12 hours, mate, something like that. And then this one was done on my resin printer, the front of the building. This was like an hour and a half, I think it was, something like that. I'd obviously just printed flat like that, printed up. Yeah, that's the front of the saloon to go onto there. I tell you what, I'm amazed that it can print these window frames in without any supports. So there was no support in there. That just kind of print, and there is obviously for a big chunk of it, it's printing in thin air almost across there. Yeah, I'm quite happy with that one. What a schloon! Yeah. There you go, mate. Saloon. Let me there. But yeah, I decided to print this on the resin printer just so that the sign was a little bit more stood out a little bit more. So yeah. Yeah. So yes, there is more terrain printing at the minute, mate. The upstairs for that bit. Ghost Winters, good evening, mate. He says, sorry he's late. This one we'll watch it back and repeat. I'm good, mate. Thanks very much for asking. Mike G says, mini board games are great because there's actual finish line and there's such a sense of accomplishment when you have a whole game painted and done. What I find a little bit strange is that I think people who come from a tabletop miniature gaming seem to like always want expansions and they want more and more stuff to buy for a board game. And I think it's just something that's it's like a mentality thing that comes from the idea of constantly having a list build, constantly like having to have something different. Where I think when it comes to board games, generally I'm quite happy with a self-contained, like what I bought in that box, I can play with that. I don't have to worry about constantly buying more stuff for it. So I think it's quite interesting that like the different sort of, I wouldn't say mentalities, but the different attitudes to that kind of stuff. John says, I reckon most mega armies are about 1,000 points for Kings of War, but generally they're really good core to add cool stuff to. But 1,000 points is a good quick game. Yeah, but you're absolutely right, mate. But then a 1,000-point game is still a decent game, isn't it? That's my point. So you can actually still play with what you've bought. Marcus says the 4th, 5th edition Tyranid Battle Force was an army in a box. 3 warriors, 8 gene stealers, 16 Gorns, and a Carnifex. You can make 1,000 to 1,250 points. Yeah, back before the points became a bit different. What's that? Let me just double check something. It's all right. What was it? What was it? Peter says, doesn't that warp without the floor? No, not at all, mate. It's. Let me just, if I go back again, it's absolutely, there's no, that's just the actual, that's the cloth that it's on that, but no, it's absolutely flat, man. It's because basically that whole thing, it basically prints to the bed, so that's like sort of stuck to the bed, and nothing happens, and it's solid. You know, doesn't warp at all, mate. Probably should call it a schloon after you spent a couple of hours in there. I bet it is, mate. You're not wrong. Michael Cowan says, looks good. Now I can see it. Peter says, how do you pronounce saloon after your missus got you out with the door roller? Oh, it's how you pronounce it. So I misunderstood what you said there. Ghost Witness says, a Malifaux related question with it being much smaller crews and so on. Is there the possibility to play a large army crew in Malifaux? You can obviously play bigger size point games, mate. Up to like 50 points or 50 soul stones is a standard game. So you're probably talking in the region of about 9 models, 10 models, something like that. However, Malifaux, or the creators of Malifaux Weird Games, also do another game called The Other Side, which is bigger scale sort of armies, if you like. And they're starting to cross over between the two games now. So there's a starter box coming out soon, which is going to be a starter box for The Other Side and for Malifaux as well. So it'll have 2 factions in the starter box, which can be used in either game. So they're starting to kind of cross-reference them a little bit now. So if you do find that Malifaux ticks all your boxes and you want to kind of go to a bigger scale, The Other Side is something that you can go to. It's different rules. I mean, it's if you understand Malifaux rules, it's similar enough that you'll understand The Other Side. But it works with like fire teams and stuff like that, which is like 3 models on a bigger base and stuff. It looks a really fun game. I've got the rule book here, which, to be fair, is just looks really daunting when you first see it. This is the rule book for it, and you'll think, oh my god, like how on earth, like I am never going to learn all those rules. But like with most weird game stuff, with most Malifaux stuff, the rules start. Let me find the rules. Oh, sorry, here they are. So there's a bit of background lore. The game rules start on page 30, and the game's rules, including all of the scenarios, finish on page 68. So like that is essentially the rules. Everything else in that book is amazing background story. It is it's sort of tells you all about the different factions. So if you're familiar with the faction books that come with that you can buy separately from Malifaux, it's like there's 4 faction books inside this one as well. It's an absolutely beautiful book. The artwork is fantastic. This is the King's Empire. If you kind of want to know the background to it, let me just pop this book down. There is a fantastic Breachside broadcast, which is one of the Malifaux podcasts, which basically give you the introductory sort of story to it. It's about a 20-minute podcast or something like that, like background story. I 100% recommend listening to it. I think it's called Earthside Echoes, Episode 1. And yeah, it's a fantastic story. Ghost Witnesses, that sounds class. Is there a release date for that box at all? Where do you follow all this news? Cheers. The best place to follow it, mate, is if you actually download the Malifaux app. In fact, let me just show you. If I go to here, so on my phone, you can see there's M3E there, which is the Malifaux app. You load that up, and when it loads, if you go to news, all of the news stuff that they release is all in here. So it's due to release pretty soon, I think. It was meant to release last year, I think, at Gen Con potentially, but obviously with COVID and lockdowns and supply issues and everything else, they basically delayed the release of it. It's been pushed back, as they did with a number of different bits and pieces. So it's due out relatively soon, I think. And also, you'll be glad to know, somebody's just saying the last one was trash. They're all pre-assembled miniatures as well. So yeah, so the stuff that's coming in the starter box are all pre-assembled as well. Fiji says, I'd be interested in a Malifaux starter provided I like the factions in the box. I know what the factions are and I forget what they are now, mate. Let me dig it out and I'll find out, and I'll send you something on I'll send you something on the Discord, mate, once I find the information again. But yeah, it's all been announced what's inside the box. Mike saying, yeah, the last 2-player starter for Malifaux was trash. Overly complicated minis and models you never won. I think the last starter was for 2nd edition, when a lot of the models were quite fiddly, to be honest, in 2nd edition. And I guess as the game grew a bit, you probably found that you wouldn't necessarily use those ones, because they were like they're obviously probably among the first ones that were done for the game. But yeah, this is basically like you can use it as a Malifaux starter, as a other side starter, or basically to introduce you to either game. Tony says, I like the look of some of the other side minis. Not so bothered about the game or army size. That's never stopped me grabbing and painting minis before. I've got this box set here. If I can squeeze this out, because that's a bit snug in there. Creating chaos now. So I've got this, which is the King's Empire, and that's the stuff you get inside. And these models are all pre-built as well. They all come pre-built, so there's nothing to build inside that box. Yeah, at some point I would love to give the other side a go as well, but unfortunately it's in that list of it's in that list of games alongside like 99 other things as well. So yeah, hopefully we'll get to it at some point. Ghost Winter says, cheers for the heads up. Definitely delving into the Malifaux world next, being a long time coming. Do the Malifaux factions such as Outcasts, Resurrectionists fall over into the other side too? So initially they didn't, mate. When the game first came out, there was 4 factions on the other side. There was the King's Empire, there was the Gibbering Hordes, there was the Cult of the Burning Man, and then there was Abyssinia. They were the 4 factions. I think what's happened over time is they've expanded the game a little bit to work with some of the Malifaux stuff now as well, and basically there's more crossover. So not every Malifaux model, I think, works in the other side, for example, but I think there's some crossover with certain models. Ghost Witness says, although quite a shame as I love the building element of miniatures. I hate that bit, mate. I absolutely hate it. Tasty Brain Drain says, pre-built minis, cool. In fact, give me 2 seconds and I'll show you something. So, I've got this box, these are the limited edition Malifaux ones that come out. There's always one comes out around Halloween. There's always one comes out around Gen Con. And this is the Witches and Wars box, which is Pandora. And you can see in the corner there, if I get close to the camera, it zooms in. Come on, focus, focus, focus. Is it going to focus? I'll do it close. I'll hide my face, I think. No, it's not going to focus. let me do it on the other one. So you can see on the box here, there's pre-assembled. So these limited edition boxes already come pre-assembled as well. So I just move that. So this is how these ones come. So let me just. So these ones are obviously a lot. I mean, they're quite fiddly minis. You wouldn't, obviously not impossible to build, but they do come pre-assembled, and yeah, some cool minis in them. So yeah, so this is how the stuff from the other side comes the same way as well. I think if you buy any of the Malifaux, I think there's like starter faction boxes now that you can get for Malifaux, and they're bringing out a box for each faction, and I think all of the minis in those boxes are pre-assembled as well. But yeah, I love these little kind of special edition boxes. They did one a while ago which was like a Lady Justice Nightmare edition. I wish I'd picked it up back then. I think it goes for a fortune now. Marcus says Burning Man. Yeah, so the background story. Oh, that's not going to focus now. Is it stuck? I need it clicking away. Hang on a second. Let me just I've obviously done something with it. There we go. So one of the stories about the other side, about the background and stuff, is about basically there's this thing appears in the sky, and these flames which have basically come like sort of appeared over London, and it looks like a man on fire. It looks like a burning man, basically. So it ends up being the cult of the burning man are these worshippers who suddenly start following this like burning man image in the sky and follow it around, thinking it's like kind of like some mystic force come to save them or something like that. But yeah, I mean, I'll give you the 5p version of the story there. Honestly, listen to, I'm sure it's Earthside Echoes, episode 1. Will give you the background story. It's fantastic. VG says Outcasts and Resurrectionists are my most interested factions. I think Outcasts might be in the box, mate, if I'm honest. I think it might be. VG says it would just be my luck, neither of them will be in the starter box. Ghost Winter says, I think it's because I'm stuck in a building rut and I haven't took the leap to start painting yet. I'm a pro builder. I hate building, mate. I would much rather every miniature I got came pre-built, if I'm perfectly honest. But yeah, just don't worry about painting, mate. Honestly, if you'll kind of end up panicking yourself into a situation where you think I dare not touch it in case I ruin it. I mean, you kind of missed what I was doing tonight. I think you said you come in a bit later, but I mean, literally all I'm doing here. I'm doing some of this stuff out here now. Surrounding myself. I'm becoming trapped now with boxes. I've just zoom in. This has been really, really simple. Just literally just putting paint down. I've done nothing fancy here. This has essentially been like painting by numbers. Like I've painted a skirt purple, I've painted the skin, painted the hair. Like I've not done any fancy blending, and I've not kind of done anything skillful. I've literally thinned my paint down, and I've just put it in the right places. Like, and I've put a wash over the top of it just to kind of give it a bit of depth. Like you don't always need to do anything kind of fantastic. Sometimes you just need to get some paint on the model, and if you enjoy it, you'll learn to do different stuff over time. Tony says I was looking at that box too. It's an impressive sized box here. Ghost Witness says absolutely love weird minis, though they are next level, aren't they? No, not at all, mate. Not at all. They're not. They're just, for me, they're no different. I mean, they're high quality, but they're not like I don't see them as a problem. I think there's a lot of people say they're really fiddly to build, and some of the older second edition ones, I would agree, were definitely fiddly to build. The newer third edition ones, I've not found any issues, but I'm sure there will still be the odd one out there that's a bit fiddly. But then there's fiddly GW models, there's fiddly Mantic models. I think everybody has models that are a bit more difficult than the others, but I've had absolutely no problems building any of the Malifaux stuff I've got, and I've got stacks of it. Tasty Brain Dreams, I'm leaning towards the Arcanists myself. Yeah, I was an Arcanist player when I first started playing. Colette Dubois, the showgirl, was my first crew. Blizzard says Bayou is my main faction, but I got a bit of everything really. Yeah, I'm starting. I mean, I've been fortunate that the guys at Weird have sent me some stuff as well over time, so I'm starting to get kind of like quite a collection of it. I've got a backlog of stuff that I need to get built and paint as well. But yeah, I've got a mixture of stuff. I would say Explorer Society is probably my main one at the minute. That's what I've got the most stuff for. BJ says I find building more zen than painting, but different strokes. Oh, absolutely, mate. Everybody likes something different. Honestly, I find it really brain numbing and frustrating. I find that when I'm doing it, I can't wait to get it done. I hate building stuff. Ghost Witnesses, I think what worries me with painting is I do a lot of graphic art on my iPad, so the painting side isn't the issue. It's knowing what to use and when to use it. Shades, washes, bases and textures. What I would suggest, mate, is don't worry about shades and washes. Essentially what you've got, if you like, I mean, every paint range is different, but I use GW paints. They have base paints, they have layer paints, they have like washes and all sorts of stuff. A base paint and a layer paint are essentially exactly the same, except the base paint has probably got more colour pigment in it, so it's probably a bit thicker. But that doesn't mean you can't use a base paint to kind of layer up your colours, and it doesn't mean you can't put the base coat down with a layer paint. You might just need to put a few more coats down. So honestly, just pick a colour and just paint it in the right places. Like think of it like a colouring in book, basically. If you were doing a colouring in book, you'd basically pick the pen you wanted, you'd colour in that section, and then you'd go and colour in all the bits. That's basically just getting your base colours down. That's essentially the basics that you need to do. Then what I tend to do from there is I'll probably put like a wash over the top of it that kind of sits into the recesses and gives it like a little bit of shading. And then I sometimes come back with the original colours and just lighten it up a little bit. I can sometimes go a bit further than that and stuff, but I generally just, that's kind of how I just, because I'm not painting to a high standard. I'm painting to get it finished, basically. Lord Maiden, take care, everyone. Take care, mate. Dave Malone says, my first skirmish game is 8 stops away. Very excited. It's a Judge Dredd starter set. As long as you're all talking about starter boxes. I heard good things about that starter box, mate. Tasty Brain Dream says, I was actually surprised at how little difficulty I had assembling my Imperial Death Troopers for Legion over the weekend, seeing how it was my first time building. Your first time building? I didn't realise that, mate. Tony says, she's looking really nice. Sometimes less is more and can be very effective. I found that with a lot of, like, especially highly detailed miniatures, I've kind of found that sometimes just not trying to overdo it. Just get the colour on, give it a bit of a wash, and then maybe, I mean, what I'll probably do from here is I'll highlight it up a little bit, maybe a little bit of dry brush on the edges of the skirt, the dress and stuff. And obviously I've got the base to paint as well, but I'm going to leave the base until I've done the rest of the crew, because what I've found is I've been painting one model and then I've kind of forgot how I've done the base. So yeah, I'll paint up the rest of the crew and stuff and then come back and do all the bases, but I'm not going overboard with it. For me, to be honest, I'd be quite happy just to leave that as it is. I mean, let me get it back under the camera. I'll move this building out of the way. I'll try not to drop everything. I'd be quite, let's get a bit of light on it as well. I'd be quite happy to leave that as it is. I mean, obviously with the base painted, I'd be quite happy to leave that as it is and not do anything more. Because I mean, I probably will, but oh, sorry, I need to paint them vile things at the back. I forgot I hadn't done those yet. But otherwise, I'm happy with it. It's good enough. It's not going to play any better on the table if I spend another 3 hours on it. So, and to be fair, I mean, how long did that take me to paint tonight? Probably started about 9:15. I was probably done by about 10:30. So within stopping and talking and all the other bits and pieces, it took me about an hour, something like that. Didn't take long, really. James Brace says, I love building. Oh, let me just... I need to ration my building so I don't have fields of unpainted plastic. I tend to get them painted, and I do have loads of unpainted plastic, but more so because I hate things just lying about in the box. It feels like I've spent my money on something and then not done anything with it. So I tend to get them built, get them sort of based, get them primed, and then put them to one side ready to paint them and stuff. So I've got loads of stuff ready to be painted basically, but yeah, yeah, that's just what I end up with doing. But I think I end up just doing it because I want to get it out of the way because I don't enjoy it. Ghost Witness says, I've got a selection of GW and Vallejo at the minute and crafted a homemade wet palette, so hopefully that gets me on the way. Yeah, absolutely, mate. Honestly, if you need any help, any tips, please just shout. Like, either myself or any of the folks in this group will absolutely help you out, mate. Do not worry about it. Tony says, I'm a building addict, even make up my own stuff. Yeah, honestly, like scratch build and stuff or like kit bashing does not fill me any excitement in the slightest. BJ says, building is either wrong or right, not so subjective. Well, I've just been talking about kit bashing there, mate. I guess it's not always right or wrong. It might be a little bit later. However, a lot of the models which are multi-pose, I never enjoy that either, if I'm honest. That's even worse, because then it's not right or wrong. Ghost Witness says, also, as daft as it may sound, but when changing colour, do you simply just swirl your brush around in some water and then continue? Yeah, I literally just... I've got a pot of water, just kind of swirl my brush around. In fact, I'll tell you what, let me zoom out my camera and I'll show you exactly what I've got on my table here. And I see, because obviously you only ever really see the mini. Let me zoom out a bit here. So, on my tabletop, I've got the paints that I'm using here, the ones I've just pulled off the back. I've got the wet palette I've been using. I've got a bit of paper towel, and I've got a pot of water. And literally, after I've painted something, I'll just give it a bit of a swirl around, just kind of wipe it up the side, and then I'll wipe it on the paper just to make sure there's nothing on. And then I'll just crack on and do the next one. There's nothing too technical about it, really. Just, I'm sure other people have their other ways. I mean, I've got a little dropper bottle here with a little bit of paint thinner in it. A bit bright on that light there. With a little bit of sort of airbrush thinner, just for thinning down certain paints. But generally I just use a little bit of water out the pot, if I'm honest, or I have like a separate pot with water in, and then obviously I've got my miniature that I'm painting. And that's pretty much it. That's all you really need. Got a few different brushes and stuff. So I've got this, which has obviously got loads of different brushes in, but it's just stuff I've kind of built up over time. So I've got things like these kind of big brushes that I'll use for doing bits of terrain and stuff. I've got these makeup brushes that are great for the dry brushing and things. I've got like kind of old brushes, so things like this, like old craft brushes that are great for putting putting PVA glue onto bases and things like that. But yeah, just a whole pile of junk, mate. James says a good swish is fine. I keep a bit of paper towel handy to remove the excess water. Yeah, exactly the same here, mate. Ghostman says I'd be more than happy with that paint job. We'll be proud to have it on the table. To be honest, mate, I'm like as kind of boastful as it might sound. I'm proud as well. I learned a long time ago that I don't need to paint everything to ultra like fine sort of quality. It just, as long as I'm neat and I put the colours in the right places, and then literally you wash over the top of it, you tend to get away with a lot of stuff. Pusey says 2 multiplied by 10 plus 1. I call that done. Marcus says I love that I'm called King of Kit Bash. God, yes. I mean, I can appreciate the effort that goes into kit bashing and stuff, and I know people enjoy it. It's just not something that I enjoy personally. Tizzy Brain says he's pretty much a newbie to minis gaming, and those Death Troopers are the first minis that I built and primed. Well done, mate. I didn't realise that. I assumed that you'd... I think I remember you saying you were relatively new, but I didn't realise you were as new as that, I think. James says I started painting 2 years ago. My number one bit of advice is just try stuff. I spent way too long hovering... Oh, I was going to say hoovering over a mini when I could have been painting. Worst case, you can strip it. Exactly, mate. Tony's saying if you're painting and enjoying what you're doing, please share your work. I love painted minis. Seeing people feel comfortable and proud enough to share their work. Skill level makes makes no difference. Love to see the work and encourage enjoyment. Absolutely, mate. If you're proud of your miniature, or if you're happy with the work you've done, then you've done it right. Basically, you've got nothing to worry about. You only need to paint to the level that you want to paint to, not at somebody else's standard. VJ was talking about standard build. Yeah. I know what you mean. I mean, there was something quite... in a weird way, I quite like some of the complicated GW ones. The single pose minis, but the ones where it almost looks like some kind of Chinese puzzle, where the 2 bits only go in one direction, and then once they slot together, the kind of like the joins disappear. It feels a bit like a puzzle, and that actually I don't mind so much. But just like building Space Marines, or building like just put the arms on, put the gun on, put the helmet on. It's a job I just want done and out of the way. Marcus says when I change colours, I have a jar of rubbing alcohol that I swish my brush in and then clean it in water. Yeah, I'm not a fancy mate. Vijay says as for multi-pose, that's the same as weapon loadout. Rule of cool. Tony says difference to me is Ghost Witness says really appreciate the info, mate. Means a lot. Bit of confidence boost to be able to ask questions and have them answered. So cheers for that. It's one of the things I like for the for live streams, mate. To be honest, because I actually get to rather than just make a video and then have people kind of like trying to understand what I meant in the comments, gives me an opportunity to kind of explain like the context behind what I'm saying as well. But it also gets people to be able to ask questions, and then the community who are here in the chat obviously help each other out as well. James says, just a plug for the Patreon. There's a very helpful group on Discord who will answer any questions you have, and there's no judgment. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm going to plug the Patreon, but yeah, it is a friendly group. I would suggest that people that join the Patreon and support me financially tend to be the folks that basically are like the community members who like being part of that Discord group, and they like the kind of community aspect and stuff as well. So there's absolutely no pressure in there to paint a certain way, to paint to a certain standard. Everybody's kind of helps each other out. I think it's a great little great group. Marcus says I've ended up stripping maybe a mini 3 times. I think I've I've never stripped a mini because I've not been happy with the paint job. I've stripped minis when I've maybe decided to go back to them years later, and I wanted to paint them a different color, or I've wanted to paint them so they fit with a like as my paintings got better or something like that. But I've never really stripped a mini because I haven't liked the paint job. I tend to just keep going and paint over the top. David Milano says, painting up the Hellboy Kickstarter models, and as I'm wrapping up the first box, I'm finding that I paint faster. Not just because technique is improving, but I don't stress about it. Absolutely, mate. Honestly, like sort of analysis paralysis and like just stressing over what colours to use and which way to paint them. It's one of the things I think I quite like about painting on a live stream is I tend not to obsess about the kind of the absolute detail, or like because I know I have to kind of hold it at arm's length and kind of get it under the camera. Like, I'm not worried about like sort of like holding it here and like trying to get into the fine detail and painting eyes and all that kind of stuff. Because if I do that on a live stream, like, this is basically what. So if I'm painting this and I start painting the eyes, that's what you'll see. It's not much fun for the camera. So yeah, so I tend not to bother. Where are we up to here? Yeah, everyone's having a bit of a chat. Ghost Winters is saying, can stripping a mini ever ruin the miniature itself? The plastic overall, or the tiny fine details? It can if you use the wrong stuff to strip it, mate. So plastic tends to be pretty tough. Metal's pretty tough. But if you've got resin minis and you use the wrong stuff, you can sometimes like melt them. Basically, you can really kind of do a bit of damage. So as long as you're just using the right stuff to strip them with, you'll not really do any damage, mate. But sometimes just have a look at it. If you've thinned your paints down and you haven't like piled the paint on it dead thick, sometimes rather than stripping them, just prime them again. Just prime over the top. Honestly, I think people get a little bit hung up sometimes. Like these are pieces for playing games with. If you're painting to some kind of competition standard, then by all means, kind of like take your time and sort of have the most perfect like kind of thin sort of prime coat or something. But sometimes it's just prime over the top of it. Right, folks, we're at 11:05 there. I'm gonna call that a night now. Thank you very much, folks, everyone that's been in the chat tonight. I'll give the Patreon a quick plug like we did before there. If anybody would like to join my Patreon, it's patreon.com/BlackJack Legacy. So yeah, please go and check it out. You can start to be a member from $2 a month, and that gets you access to the private Discord chat, which a lot of these fine folks are already in. Ghost Witness is saying, I presume resin minis are those 3D printed, but Malifaux and those sort of minis are plastic. Kind of, mate. This mini I'm painting tonight is resin. So, in fact, let me just... actually, my TV's just turned off because it's been switched on for a while. This one here, we use this camera. This is a resin model. So this one is resin. If I'm looking at this camera here, I can see. That's resin. So it's not just 3D printed minis. It's you can actually buy resin minis. So all of the Wild West Exodus, the Lost World Exodus ones are all resin. Quite a few of the new Mantic ones are resin as well. Don't be frightened of them. You just need to use super glue instead of plastic glue, basically, and they're a lot easier to clean up as well. They're a bit more fragile in terms of if you drop one, it'll probably snap and you have to kind of like glue it back together and stuff. But I mean, they're still pretty tough. So anyway, yes, I was on my way out the door there. So yes, and Busey's saying there, totally agree. The Patreon Discord's a great source of information, and friendly and no pressure involved. You can jump in and out whenever. Exactly, yeah, there is that as well. Don't think that once I've also from a like you can jump in and out the chats, but also as well, don't forget if you just want to sign up for a month and you just want to check it out and see what it's like, you can sign up and then see what you think of it. If you cancel your Patreon, then basically like that's it. You can kind of just leave the chat if you like. But so don't feel that you have to sign up and you're in it forever kind of thing. You can just sign up for a month and give it a try. So, Andrew saying I'm just in time for the end of the show. Yep, sorry, mate. Take care, buddy. I will see you all on Monday, Bank Holiday Monday. So I'll see you then, folks. Take care and enjoy the rest of your week. Thanks for watching my video. I hope that you really enjoyed it. And if you did, why not consider clicking on the suggested video below to see more of the work that I've done. If you'd like to support the long-term sustainability of this channel, why not consider checking out my Patreon, where you can pledge and support from as little as $2 a month, and there is lots of different tiers and bonuses which will give you access to a private Discord server. It will give you free t-shirts, free mugs, a podcast every month, and a number of other things, including getting your name at the end of every video, like these awesome folks who already support me now.